Good morning, everybody, or good evening, or good afternoon. I don't even know what it is. Good evening, good morning. For Doug Hewson, good night. Welcome to the Daniel Batal channel. Today I want to talk to you about what I probably consider the most important element of when it comes to trying to learn to be a better video editor. How do we sound out there? Everything sound good? Let me know in the chat if we sound good, sound okay. If everything looks good, then we can keep moving here. Megan, say hi to the people.
Hello, everyone.
There's Megan. We are talking today about fundamentals, and it's really funny. I was on Twitter, or X, I don't know what we call it anymore, a couple of weeks ago, and someone said to me, like, well, what do you think the most important part of video editing is? And I responded, I said, learning the fundamentals. And they said, well, what do you mean fundamentals? And I kind of thought about it like, wow, I don't know if I've ever had a discussion about how I learn or what I think is important, because we get so many questions from the community. You guys are great. You send in great questions, but I learn a lot about how well I'm doing at teaching people things and where I'm missing out just based on the questions, because it shows me where I'm leaving holes and where I'm maybe not making things clearer than they should be, so that you guys can learn faster and you guys can move your video editing skills ahead faster, and you can start accomplishing what you need to accomplish. So I thought what we'd do is keep this a little interactive today. I've got DaVinci Resolve open. We're going to be using DaVinci Resolve. I've got some questions from the comments section across my channel that I want to bring up, and I'm going to show you some of the questions that I see. If you have questions, put a Q in the chat and ask your question, like Q and then ask your question. But I want to stay really focused on fundamentals and kind of stay true to the conversation if we can. One of the things that I see a lot on my channel is I get these questions that are, really focused on a very specific use case or workflow for one person, and they'll say, can you make a video on that? And I have to try to say in a very nice way, like, all of the elements that you need to learn to do that are already on my channel. But a lot of times people just like, no, I need you to show me how to put a hot air balloon over a certain city. That's exactly what I need. And they want me to make that video. But I'm going to try to empower you to have the skills to do all of the things that you want to do just by showing you where you need to pay attention. So hi to Dimitri, good to see you. Good to see you, Sai. Good to see you, Saladin. Nice to see you as well. Got Roblox in the house. Rolox in the house. Not Roblox, I put a B in there. Rolox in the house. Good to see you too. MacBook Bro, Billy Butthead. We've got all of the names. Create and Relate. Good to see all of you here. So if you're here watching live, you're here watching in the replay, what I want to really focus on is this idea of fundamentals. Okay, so let's think about what I think you should really be paying attention to so that week after week you become a better video editor. And let me see if I can share my screen here now. Here we go. There's me, right? There's me with DaVinci Resolve over here. This is your basic opened edit page, right? In DaVinci Resolve. You guys all know this page. You open up DaVinci Resolve. Sometimes it opens to the cut page. Most of us do a majority of our work in the edit page. I think it's where you can get a lot of work done. There's nothing wrong with Fusion and color page and the media tab and the cut page and Fairlight. I love them all, but most of my work is done right here. And it's important to understand the functionality and what you should be paying attention to. You made the new username when you were like 4th grade. Oh, Billy Butthead. That's all right, Billy. He's apologizing for his name. I love it. I think it's great. I want to pull up a couple of questions, and I want to show you the kinds of things that I see from our community. Let me see if I can pull this up quickly. All right. Here's a typical question that I get, right? Like, Daniel, I want to add exactly what I was mentioning. I want to add a realistic moving hot air balloon in the background of my videos over Cappadocia. How can I do this? I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And this is one of those things where someone is looking for very specific information. And as much as I would like to go, oh, I know exactly what to tell them, the reality is I've covered this video a million times. And it's really about learning how to take something and layer it over something else. Like if you had, we're going to go right here. Let me go up to the media tab and I'm going to import something. Let's just take, this is just a piece of whatever. It's a piece of a road. Let me stretch this out. Real simple stuff we just did there, right? Knowing how to bring, an element down into your timeline. So all I have, this isn't even a video. This is just an image, but it's got a sky. If you wanted to add like a hot air balloon or something over it, The trick there is finding what it is that you want to put over that element and just layering it into a higher track. In this case, let me see what we have. And we got Casey Ferris. We'll put, if you wanted Casey Ferris to be floating over your over your background in the sky, what you could do, sorry, I'm on the crop mode here. What you could do is put him up here, right? He's now on a track above our main footage. And I use, let me see if I can show you this. I use this option here. This is the one I like. Oh, I have to insert one thing. Give me 1 second here because I want to make sure I can zoom in so that you guys can see. If I need to zoom in on something, I want to make sure that you guys can see exactly what I'm looking at. Let me see if this works. I use, there it is, this little feature right here. There's this little drop-down menu that's just to the lower left of your preview window in the edit page. And it's the most powerful set of tools, I think, on the edit page. And the reason being is most of us know these tools up here. Like if I've got our hot air balloon, Mr. Casey Ferris, sitting over our footage and I wanted to zoom in on him, I could use these zoom features up in the transform tab of the inspector. If we have this upper transform section right here, right? This is your zoom. That allows you to zoom in and out. This is your position X and Y. That allows you to move the thing on screen left and right. Your rotation, your anchor points, all of these things are sort of the fundamentals of how to move something on screen. So if you have layers on screen, if you have Mr. Casey Ferris over the country road, the way you'd want to move him, if you wanted to zoom in, you would just left click literally up in the number value. I left click and hold on the number value and just move my cursor to the left or the right. That would zoom him in or out. If I wanted to move him left or right, I would use the position X to go left or right, position Y to go up or down. These are real simple, basic fundamentals. See, left and right, I'm moving them left and right. If I left click on the number value on the Y of position, that moves them up and down. And then below that, you can see there's a rotation angle. That just rotates him. If I grab that slider and move it, what that's going to do is that's going to rotate him on screen, left or right, spins him around by clockwise or counterclockwise. And if I wanted him to spin differently, we talked about this recently. There's another thing below it called the anchor point. And the anchor point is, if you look right here, can you see I've actually got the on-screen transform enabled. That center dot with this little handle that goes up to another dot, that's the anchor point. These are the ability to, when you rotate an image, what is going to be the center anchor, how it's going to spin. So in this case, the center anchor is right dead center on the image. So if I rotate it left or right using either the on-screen elements or the rotate up in the inspector, he's going to spin around that center point, okay? But if I change the anchor point, and you can change the anchor point one of two ways. You could literally go over here to the X and Y values, and you can move them left or right. That's a good way to start sometimes. If I move that to the right, can you see what's happening on screen? Let me see if I can zoom in. The minute I move to the right, this is the actual center, but did you notice the anchor point moved over to the right and that handle is now right of center? When you change an anchor point, that can do really cool things, especially when you have the ability to move on screen and go, why don't I put the anchor point up by his head? So I've moved it all the way up to here now, the very top of the frame. And where that can be super useful is now when I rotate, it's swinging back and forth because the new center point, the anchor point, is up above his head, not in the middle of the image. So instead of spinning him in circles, it's now kind of swinging him back and forth. And you can do that. You could change that anchor point more than once, right? You could say, I don't want the anchor point there. I actually want it down over to the left. And if I start putting it there, now he sort of flops around more like a flag. And that anchor point is really important. So all of those features up in this simple transform area, understanding the zoom, the left and right position, X and Y, how to rotate, how to change the anchor point. And then last but not least is sort of this pitch, yaw, and flip. I don't know if you guys have used them frequently, but this is something, if you've opened up Resolve and you don't have these mastered, if you don't know all of these basic features, spend a day doing this, just playing around with them. This is more important than you even know, because watch what happens. If you see the pitch and yaw right here, pitch and yaw, these two sliders, if I grab the pitch, watch what happens to Casey. Casey gets flipped on his X axis. It's sort of like it's taking him like almost like a piece of paper and flipping them forwards and backwards. That's pitch. But if we do yaw, that's the opposite direction. That's sort of like taking them and flipping them side to side. So you can stretch him back and forth, side to side. Poor Casey's, if he ever sees this, he's going to be like, why was I the hot air balloon? Why was I the guy? But this is all those controls, right? And then there's some simple flip up and down backwards. I use those a lot when I'm trying to move quickly. I'll go, oh, I just quickly need to flip the image the other way. I need to flip them upside down. It's really quickly, it just does 180 degrees flip. Those are these two icons right here. This one flips left and right. This one flips up and down. Those simple things are really good to know, as well as knowing that you have all of these buttons right here that'll reset each of those functions, and that's the master reset at the top. So if I want to get it back to right where I started, I click, he's right back to full screen Casey Ferris. Now, if he was a hot air balloon, I might want to put him up in the sky. Now, I can sit there and I can move these controls in the upper right and the zoom and everything, but for me, this is where I use, let me use the whole drop-down menu so you can actually see it. I use this menu in the lower left of the preview window, and the top option is transform, which is funny because it's the exact same name as transform up in the inspector. The reason I like it, if you turn it on or off, if I have it off here, just looks like that image. If I turn it on, those dots on screen appear. See how there's like a dot in each corner over here? There's a dot above on each side. Those are going to be control points, and they'll also have the rotation. That allows me to do all that stuff that's kind of up in the preview window. I mean, up in the inspector, but I can do it on screen. So now I can just left click in the screen, hold, and I can drag them around. I can move them wherever I want. I can grab one of the corner dots, left click and hold, pull inward, and I can shrink him, or I can make him bigger. So if he was a hot air balloon, if Casey Ferris were a hot air balloon, you heard it. You heard that sentence here first, ladies and gentlemen, on the Daniel Batal Show. I would make him smaller to the size of a hot air balloon, and I might put him up in the sky, right? If it was an image of a hot air balloon, and then I would now have Casey Ferris is a hot air balloon up in the sky above whatever country road this is. Kind of simple stuff, learning how to locate the things that you want on screen by just creating layers. I find that more people say they know this, but do not actually have this mastered. They go, yeah, I totally know that. But then when I start talking to them, they ask me questions and I say, well, why don't you just use that function? And they go like, oh, how do I do that? Where is that? Right, Iggy, he would think it's fabulous. Right, note to self, remind me, Iggy, we got to get Casey back on the channel. He was on once, and he's such a good guy. Let's get him back on here because I love when he comes on and starts teaching about fusion. But this is real simple, right? I've got this Casey Ferris in the sky above my footage, and I did it very easily by just bringing that in as a layer on top of my footage. I put him in track 2. Remember, every time you stack upwards, that's like thinking of it forward. I think of projects almost like depth. When you have layers in your project, in my mind, I spin them sideways, and it's sort of like stacking outwards. And I always think of track 1 as being way in the background. And then if I put something on track 2, that's another layer in front of it. So that's more forward, that's more visible. It's covering layer 1. And then if I put something in layer 3, track 3, that's a third layer that's sort of covering both of the 2 layers below it. So you're stacking sort of depth instead of just thinking of upward and downward. So whenever I do anything, when I'm thinking of layers, if you can understand that you're literally creating depth, foreground and background by creating stacked layers, it makes your world just so much easier to sort of start putting things together. So here I have Casey here, right? And this is a simple feature, but when you go down even farther, let me reset Casey so he's full screen. If you go down even farther, there's these very simple tools here that say cropping. And a lot of people, when I answer questions in the comment section, they get confused between the words zoom and crop. And zoom is literally like, is a bit like sizing. If you look at Casey right now, if I use the zoom option at the very top right here under the transform, if I zoom in and I zoom into him, it's like making him bigger. It's pulling him forward. It's pushing it more towards the viewer. So that means it's going to get bigger. And when I zoom back out, it means it's going to push him back or make him smaller. So zoom is sort of like forward or back or bigger and smaller. But cropping is a different feature. Cropping is when you take what's going on here. Let me turn Casey off for a minute. Cropping is, look at this image I have on screen right now, okay? Let me make it a little bit bigger so you can see what's going on here. All right, let me move it right here. If you crop an image, it's literally like taking a pair of scissors and cutting. And if you look at what we have here for options, it's pretty straightforward, right? Crop left, crop right, crop top, crop bottom. And they work exactly as you think. If I do crop left, you'll see the left side. I'm left clicking and holding the slider. It moves that crop in. I'm cutting, I'm snipping off part of this image or video, works on either one, from the left side. And if I were to grab the right side and I say crop, I'm cropping, I'm removing or cutting out the parts from the right. And the same is true, cropping the top, crop top. That's Iggy's favorite shirt to wear in the summer. And then crop bottom brings up the bottom, right? So you're literally snipping out those parts of your image or your video, cropping. Very different than when you zoom in, because if you zoom in, it may look like you're cropping, because if I zoom into this image, it looks like it's losing the top and the bottom and the sides. But if I scroll out on my preview window, they're all still here. You can see that white outline. I've just moved it so close that it's bigger than the preview window can be. All that information is still there. I didn't remove it, but if I decided to crop out the left when it was zoomed in, now I'm removing that information. Really, really simple things that often people think they know and they go, yeah, I think I kind of get it. Is that important? Teach me how to fly like Superman. That's what I want to do. But here's where this becomes really important. Let me do for an example. Oh, I should show you one other feature. When you crop, let's say crop the left, there's one other thing here. This line is a very hard line. When I cut that left side out, there's an option at the very bottom here. It's called softness. And what it does is if you move that slider back and forth, it'll soften that cropped edge, whichever ones you have cropped. If I reset everything and I just crop the left side over and I start softening, it's going to soften that cropped edge. If I pull it way down, it'll crop everything. But you see how it's softening if I move it up, that left edge? You see it's like, let me see if you can zoom in and see it. It sort of becomes almost like a blend. So instead of being like a real harsh line, it becomes a blend. But when you create that blend, it exposes a little bit more of the original video or image. So if you do soften, you may need to readjust your crop edge. So I just softened it, but I wanted the crop to happen more over here. So, oh, excuse me, I'm gonna use this one over here. So I'm gonna take that crop left line and I'm gonna move it back in. And that's just crop and soften. And the other thing you wanna think about, let me change the sizes here. Let me change all the crop. You can also crop with this same awesome little menu in the lower left of your preview window. So instead of using those sliders and faders and all those things on numbers on the side, you can just switch to this crop option right there and go, wait a minute, I want to use the on-screen option to crop. Click that, and it kind of looks the same, right? Still got all the kind of same dots that it puts around this. But watch what happens when you grab some of these dots. I'm going to grab the left side dot. It's now cropping the left side. I'm just left clicking and holding on that center dot, and it crops it in. And I can crop down the top. I can crop in the bottom. I can do whatever I want. I like using these on-screen options because it's so much faster than the other, ways of sitting there with sliders sometimes and getting it. Let me see what the question was I saw. If I want to soften only one side is what Nicole said. Okay, so perfect example here. Let me just reset all of this. If you want to soften one side, what you want to do is just move one fader. If you've cropped more than one region, it's going to feather all those edges. So just know that ahead of time. There's other ways you can do it in Fusion where you can create more of a blend with a mask. But if you're just using simple crop, what's going to happen is, like I said, let's say I crop the left side, open up the softness to the right, and you'll see now it's only done that to one side. I only have that feather on one side. And if I resize this image, using I'm going to switch over to transform. I'm going to use this option, the on-screen transform. Switch back to that, and I shrink it. What you'll see, oh, a little too close. Let me get this centered. Come on, baby. Is I have nice, straight, harsh edges on all the rest, but this side is feathered. So think about moving the softness to the right and only cropping one side. And if you need the image smaller, then do exactly what I did. Just change the size on screen. Real simple. We're just transforming the size, the crop, the rotation, the pitch, all of that real straightforward kind of stuff. And what's interesting is I tell people how important that is. And they go, yeah. But I want you to teach me something cool, like how to clone myself on screen. So there's two of me on screen. And I have to tell them nicely, I just taught you everything how to do that. And I think if you guys in the chat, have you ever tried to do that? Have you ever tried to do like a clone of yourself, put two of you on screen and have you talk to each other? That's a question I get a lot. Like, how do I clone myself? I haven't made a recent video on it. I did years ago with another software which shall not be named, Phil Noir. And the reason I haven't done it is there's so many videos on it. But let me see. Let me get rid of hot air balloon Casey. Let me see if I can find a piece of footage. I was on my deck this morning. Here's a perfect example. You now have everything I just showed you is everything you need to know to clone yourself and put two of you on screen. You have it all. You've just learned all of it. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So here's a piece of footage. This morning, I just went out onto my deck. Let me turn off the transform. And I was just sitting on a sofa on my deck, right? Just standing out there, set up a camera. Hair was still wetter than it is now. My hair dies very slowly. And I was just acting like, oh, there's someone on the other side of the couch, right? That's just like, oh, there's some. And then I just went to the other side of the couch and said, okay, now I'm going to pretend I'm looking back at the other side. Hey, right? And what I did was I just pretended that there were two of me. Well, that's the whole trick. So now I have, if I scroll back to the beginning part of the footage, there's me on the left side. Now I just go to the point where I switched, right? Which is now about here. If I go to my footage in my timeline and I cut it, I just hit Control B to cut my footage. I lift that up into a second track and bring it over. I've got this track turned off. I now have exactly what we were just doing last time. Remember we put hot air balloon Casey over a background? I just put Daniel on the right side over Daniel on the left side. But you can't see Daniel on the left side. But what did we just do 2 seconds ago? We learned how to crop. We learned how to crop and feather, soften the edge. So with that top track selected, all I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the on-screen crop. I'm going to grab the left side right here, and I'm going to crop the left side over until I see the other Daniel. Now there's two Daniels on screen, which in my honest opinion is of two Daniels too many.
I don't know if I can handle two of you.
It's a lot of Daniels. But you can immediately see some of the flaws, or I can, right? Like the background, the deck surround looks pretty good. Whoops, hold on a second. But if I look closely, I'm like, wait a minute, see right here? You can see like the sofa cushion where I was sitting on it, my fat butt made it lift up. Then when I put the other part over it, it sort of has like it doesn't match well. This side from the second piece, the second half of the footage, the cushion goes down to there. In the first half, it's up here. Now you could figure that this is what I would call like a test piece of footage. If I was doing this for like, I'm going to do a cloning thing, I would say, oh, Daniel, maybe move that table a little closer so it covers the edge of the cushion of the couch. And then it would be really easy to make that adjustment. But what was the other thing I just taught you? I just showed you we had the ability to soften an edge. So if I just go up to the cropping area and I'm going to go back down to this soften, and the only edge I've moved is the left. I just moved it over to expose the other Daniel. Well, all I'm going to do is grab that softener and move it to the right just a little bit. And now look, it just softened that edge, and now that cushion looks complete because it softened the transition. And then when I sit back and go, well, okay, I got two Daniels. This took me all of 5 minutes. It took me longer to set up the camera outside than it did to film. It was just, 10 minutes total setup and breakdown. If I go back to the beginning, I'm going to turn off the overlay here. And I just play through. We'll have two Daniels sitting on a couch, waving, talking. It looks like you've cloned yourself. And all we did was we just cropped it. We have two layers. One side, I'm sitting on one side, I'm sitting on the other. And then when you can only see when I stood up, that's when you see that it's actually two pieces of footage. But before then, it's like, oh, kind of convincing. It looks like two guys on a couch that are identical twins. That is that's a perfect example of how to clone using very simple techniques. And so when I tell you learning the simple parts of video editing will allow you to do all kinds of things, the trick is teaching your mind to start thinking about how to use these simple tools in action instead of making it really complicated. Like, don't I have to mask out around and learn all these crazy things? Like, no, just sit on one side of a couch, sit on another side of a couch, make sure the lighting doesn't change, make sure the camera stays fixed, it doesn't move around. And if the camera's on a tripod and fixed and not moving, you can just move to the other side of the couch, and then you can just split the footage, put a feathered edge, just crop one edge off, stack them on top, all shot at once, boom. And then your biggest concerns are going to be things like, well, what if I want to talk to myself? Like, what if I want to have me respond? Then that's stuff that you spend a lot of time in pre-production practicing and getting it right and getting the shot where you go, I'm going to say this, and then the other me is going to say this back, so I have to wait. And then the first me is going to say this, and then the second me. And that's all stuff that you really want to think about in pre-production. So if in your head you go, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to film this all with me sitting on one side of the couch and the other half on the other side of the couch. So then if I can go out and I can test it like we just did here, I can go, oh, that kind of works. I think that kind of works. I actually think this will work. It looks like two of me. I don't think you'd be able to notice. It's actually pretty good for a rough shot that I just made this morning. If that works, now I know how I'm going to edit. Before I've done a test shot. Now I can do all the pre-production of getting everything ready so that when I do go to shoot, I can have things lined up that I want to say. I can start figuring out how to work with two of me on screen and make it work right. Not that tricky. Very straightforward stuff. Right. The Polish dad says that's the key, right? Simplicity. I'm a big fan of work smarter, not harder. And one of the things I see a lot from people who come to my comments, we have a great community, by the way. I love the questions you guys leave. But a lot of times what I'll get is younger creators asking me, like, how do you do this TikTok thing, the trend that I saw? And I have to tell them, like, if you break that trend down, you can figure it out just using fundamentals. 90% of it is there in the fundamentals. Most of the TikTok trends are just things moving or shaking or, doing some transitions. It's pretty straightforward stuff. If you learn the fundamentals, you can recreate those things just by looking at it and going, okay, I see how to do this. I see how to make this happen. And once you get to that point, then you can create anything you want, right? Yeah, right there. And Chill Mode said the importance of screen test too, in your opinion. I agree. I think there are 3 phases you need to pay attention to before you ever video edit anything or ever film anything. You need to think about pre-production, production, and post-production. What we're doing here inside of DaVinci Resolve is the post-production. Everything's filmed. We're past the point of changing anything. Now I have to work with the ingredients I got. So much like going to shop for a meal, you go, what do I want to make tonight for dinner? I want to make, steak with Brussels sprouts and mashed potatoes, I guess. You would go, okay, I haven't made it yet, but I now I'm gonna make a list of what I need. I go to the store and I buy those things. That's exactly what it's like when you do pre-production. Figure out what you want to film, then you can figure out what you're gonna need in order to make that work later on. Go out there, figure out the parts you need, make a list, and then you can do your pre-production, test some things out when you go, I'm not quite sure if this is going to work. Let me do a test shot. If it works, then you can run with it. These are the kind of things that make it really, really simple to do that kind of stuff. You need to learn the basics and what DaVinci Resolve can do too, says Rafael Garcia. Totally agree. Totally agree with that. Let me show you some other things. I get like a bunch of questions. And like I said, feel free to, if you have a question, I'm paying attention to the chat too. I've got Megan here. Don't be afraid to shout them out. Now, I want to show you another question. Very simple question I got the other day. Let me see if I can get this to pop up. All right, here we go. This was a question. Move this over. I got a question from Salunium said, please do an update on blanking fill alternative for DR20 free version. It's not available in the free version anymore. Well, the truth is it was never available in the free version. And let me show you what he's talking about so I can have it make sense. But it was one of those things where simplicity can win out. I'm going to go, let's see, let me find I need to find a 9:16 piece of media. Let me see if I can find anything. I probably have, let me see if I can find something from DaVinci Resolve for noobs. Probably like the intro to one of these things is probably perfect. let's say I do a mix. Oops, there's no mix in there. Okay, I'll find one. There should be. Let's go here. Let's do a mix. Property height. No, that's a full video. I'll get there. I promise. One of these is a 9x16 video. There it is. Okay, so here's one of my DaVinci Resolve for Noobs shorts. Let me mute this so we don't hear it. Okay, it's 9x16, and if I turn on the red background, I think you guys know this trick here. If you click, whoops, let me get it here. If you click on the timeline options, it'll give you the option to change the background color. I'm going to change it to red. So now you can see the video and then whatever the background is that the video isn't covering. That's just empty dead space. When the question was asking how to do a blanking fill, there's a thing that is available in the studio version. If you actually go up to the effects tab and you look for, in the upper left, blanking fill. It sounds like I'm swearing at a friend named Phil. That blanking fill, that one right there. That's just an effect that makes it super simple if you have studio version. If you drag it down onto your footage, what it does, can you see that, is it sort of fills out the space. It takes the main 9x16 video and fills it with sort of like a blurred stretch version of that. And you can control it. I don't want to get too deep into this. Right up my nostrils. That's awesome. Yeah, great. Oops, excuse me. We're too far up my face. I don't need to see that much of my face. You can control up in the options here, like how you want to blend the edges, how you want to blur the background, how you want, if you want it stretched, if you want it zoomed vertically, all that stuff, right? But the default look of it is this. It just takes what's on screen and fills the rest. It's called the blanking fill, to take a 9x16 video, and when you're putting it into a 16:9 project, it fills the edges out with something. And as you go, it just kind of has that blurred in the background. And the question was, well, Daniel, I don't have that option. How can I do it in the free version? I said all of the things that you need to know to do this are on my channel multiple times. And I know sometimes people want the answer, just tell me how to do this. But I want people to learn, because just learning how to do one thing and not learning to think broader, not being able to step back and go, wait a minute, I can take things that I've learned from another lesson and use them here. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's try this. I'm going to see if I can replicate this exactly. All right, let me go back to the beginning. I'm going to go back to my face. Looks like I'm about to sneeze at the beginning of my... Anyone ever noticed this? Hold on. Right at the beginning of my, the very opening frame, that looks like I'm about to sneeze. Achoo! So let's just take that piece, the very opening of DaVinci Resolve for Noobs here, right? DaVinci Resolve for Noobs, just that short section. And I'm going to hit Alt, hold Alt, and drag over. That will duplicate this. I will now have two of them. Okay, now, one has blanking fill assigned. This other one here, I'm going to delete blanking fill. This one next to it has no blanking fill. So you're just seeing the red background. This is two clips. I'll separate them a little so you can see. First clip, studio version, blanking fill applied. Second clip, no blanking fill. We're seeing that background showing through. I just happen to choose red, but you're just seeing the background like, oh, that's not going to be filled. If I exported this, it would actually just look black. So like, how do we do a blanking fill? Well, one of the things I would look at, let me lock the audio track, is I would say, what is it that makes this up? Let's look at the very first thing. It looks like it's just that main footage stretched out and blurred. Well, wait a minute. Do we know how to stretch out footage? I don't think that's too tricky. Do I know how to blur footage? I don't think that's too tricky either. So what I would do is I'd go, wait a minute, why don't I just duplicate the footage so that I have my main footage right here, right? I have the one with no background. Why don't I make another layer so that I have basically that depth, and in the background layer, I'll stretch it and I'll blur it. Won't that kind of give me a blanking fill? Blanking fill? So that's exactly what I'm going to do, is I'm going to take this second piece of footage down here. Let me see if I can keep my face out of the way. And I'm going to hold Alt. That allows me to copy. Left click, and I'm going to drag upwards. So I now have a duplicate of it. It's the exact same timing, perfect. I just hold Alt, left click, drag up. Like Mr. Garcia said earlier, knowing the basic resolve functions, that's a basic one. How to copy something in your timeline. Hold Alt, left click, hold, and drag in a different direction, up, down, left, right, and it'll duplicate that item inside of your timeline. Now you have two. So I have two here, okay? Now looking at these two, I'm going to say, well, let me take the bottom one. Let me select it. That's all I'm doing is clicking on the lower track of these two here. I'm just clicking on this one. Oh, look, I'm pink now, not orange. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, well, I want to stretch it. If I look back, I go, what was the other one doing? It was like me, but stretched out. So let's go, okay, let's take that bottom track and let's stretch it. How do you stretch? This is one of those things I actually didn't mention. I should have brought up earlier. But stretching is the same function as zoom. If you look at zoom, I love that I'm pink right now. If you look at zoom, there's a zoom X and there's a zoom Y and there's a chain link right in the middle of that. And it's always on by default. So that if you do zoom, I've got, let me see, I'm going to do the top track. I'm selecting the top track just to show you a zoom. If I zoom, everything X width and the height zooms in all at once because zoom X and Y are locked. They're linked together. But if I, I'm going to select the bottom track again. Okay. So we're working with the lower track, the background. If I go up to this inspector and I click on that link in the middle to disengage so that the zoom X and the zoom Y are no longer locked, and I think about X and Y, X allows me to spread that zoom out without the Y being changed. So it's almost like stretching it widthwise, right? That's what the zoom X is going to allow me to do. And I'm going to pull that till it fills the frame. I'm halfway there. I'm like, wait a minute. This was just kind of that and blurred. Okay. I mean, I can adjust it and get it as close as possible, but I'm like, that's kind of there. That's maybe a little wider, but that's kind of that. Well, what else does this have? What else does this have? Oh, it has a blur on it. Well, do we know how to add a blur? Any of you guys who've been using Resolve for a minute have probably seen that there are these awesome little effects right up here. If you click on effects, it opens up the effects. That's where we found blanking fill. But if you don't have blanking fill, I guarantee you have a few different versions of blur. We've got box blur, directional blur. I don't think lens blur. I think that star means, I think that's a favorite one of mine, but I think that's a studio only one. But box blur is fine. Let's just grab box blur, right? And let's drag box blur down on the lower track of footage, the one that's behind, and lay it in there. Now let's see what it looks like. Okay, it's close. I can see up in the upper right, I have the ability to increase the strength, make it more blurry. Why don't I move that slider to the right? Let's go a little more blurry. Okay, you're now looking at the blanking fill. I've got my playhead back on the one where I added blanking fill. And this is the one that we just made. Original, blanking fill. Original, blanking fill. You tell me if we were just able to easily recreate a studio-only feature just by duplicating a track, simple. I know how to duplicate a track. I know how to make something a duplicate of something. Unlinking the zoom so that we are only stretching in one direction, not moving the whole thing bigger, just going bigger left and right. Okay, that was simple. And I'm going to grab a blur out of the effects because I was just looking at what is it? If I look at this is the original blanking fill, what am I seeing? I'm seeing a background that looks like the foreground, but it looks like it's been stretched and blurred. Do I know how to create a background that's the same as the foreground, stretch it and blur it? If you can get your head wrapped around the idea that that's all this is and break something down and go, wait a minute, that's not as hard as it seems. I think I can do that. For me, I think we've just absolutely done a great job very quickly of duplicating this blur. Now I can go really crazy and go, well, maybe their stretch was a little wider than my stretch. Okay, I have to go back up to the video and maybe I need to stretch the background track just a hair more. And we could keep going back and forth and go, maybe it's a little more blurry, but I'm thinking like we kind of got it, right? Simple, easy. So instead of going like, oh, really wish I had that blanking fill feature. I wouldn't even know how to recreate that in the free version. Yeah, you do. Just look at what's happening on screen. Take a giant step back and go, what's really happening here? When you want to put a hot air balloon over some city, what's really happening here? City with something over it. small and maybe up in the, sky. Kind of simple. Do I know how to make things big? Do I know how to layer things and put one thing over another? Yeah. Do I know how to change the size of them? Yep. Do I know how to locate them on screen so I don't want it in the middle, I want it maybe up in the right? Absolutely, especially when you're using some of these lower left features here. That transform option is awesome. Turn it on, just change sizes, move things wherever you want, and you can crop all of that. Nice and easy. So this is it's called finding a workaround, says Create and Relate, when you don't have all the tools. That's true. Like, and listen, if you're living in a world where you want to buy the studio version because you start thinking, well, I like the blanking fill, but I can recreate that. But if you start thinking about, well, I mask a lot, and when I go to mask things out, boy, the magic mask is so much faster. I can just kind of click and then it removes the background. I don't sit there and, cut things out manually and then track it. It's so much faster. When it comes to studio versus free, for me, it's just like convenience. Is it worth the money to get the better performance and the extra 15% worth of features? For me, it is. I really like it. I think the studio version is a huge deal, especially considering it's a one-time license that's lifetime. So, yeah, and it's just a matter of like, but if you don't have the money, or if you like using the free version, works for you, but you just need a couple of things, see if you can recreate them. And this is where we need to start thinking about how we can do exactly that. Megan, can you keep an eye on the chat if you see any cues for me? I want to show some of the other questions I've had. I got Megan watching the chat. I'm over here. I'm keeping my eye out, guys. I'm trying to find them all.
Do you want me to just send them to you or read them out to you?
Do you want to do that? Yeah, why don't you send them to Messenger if you could? And then I'll just see them in there. That'll be perfect. All right, let me do this. I'm going to open up some other questions that I did, because there's some of these other questions that I was kind of keeping track of. I think are important because they said some important things. No, that's not what I want to open. Let me give one more time here. I'll get this down yet. Okay, there. Now, here's another question that I got. Let me get my, I think you can read most of it. This commenter asks, how can I make cuts in an audio track and slow down the playback speed of the audio in DaVinci Resolve without affecting the video? For example, if I pronounced a word incorrectly and I want to cut it out, I also want to make cuts of about 1 or 2 seconds, but since the audio plays so fast, I can't precisely find the exact start and end points of the word. What's the best way to do this? This is a perfect example of very simple things. This is an example, and listen, there is no judgment on anybody in this community. I think you're all great, and we're all at a different place in our journey. But that was a simple question of like, I'm trying to, there's a couple of words I don't like in my audio, but I can't find them and zero in on them and then just cut those words out. And that's just one of those situations that's specific to just not having enough experience with the software. So let's go back to what I had going on here. Give me 1 second. I think I had, is it this one? Let me go G. I think it's that one. Okay, here's the software. This is what we just did that with the blanking fill. Let me get rid of all of this. I'm going to go back to the media pool, and this is one of my DaVinci Resolve for Noobs videos. Okay. Now, I've got it muted, but if you look, the most important thing to answer that question is he's probably got a lot of things going on in his video track. I'm going to turn off the red. It's kind of distracting my eyes now. And he's probably looking at his track like this, like, how am I supposed to find that word and be able to, analyze it and dissect that one word? I don't know how to do that. Well, it starts with some really basic functionality just in the edit page. For example, knowing that there's a timeline zoom slider right here. That will zoom the timeline. And if you slide that back and forth, to the left will make it tighter zoom. It goes really tight. And if you move it all the way to the right, it zooms way out. So now I am zoomed completely out on this timeline. And I can literally start moving back and forth. I can start listening through and go, is there, that word right there. What was that word? I don't know what I said. But somewhere right around here, there was a problem. And having your waveform and go, there's the beginning of something I said. There's the end of something I said, because when I'm speaking, the waveform will be bigger. When I stop speaking, it'll shrink down to nothing. I'm taking a breath, or it's pausing for a minute. If I don't like that word, I don't need to play through to find it. I need to be able to go, wait a minute, I can scrub I don't know if I have audio scrubbing turned on or if you'll be able to hear this, but you can take that playhead and you can just left click right on the top of the playhead and hold, and you can drag.
You want to use in your...
You hear that?
You know,
I'm just dragging through, right? So normal play speed.
for noobs. If you've got a piece of footage that you want to use in your project, but
There's maybe the word project I didn't like.
your project,
I'm going, oh, I just heard the word project and I don't like it. Okay, what am I going to do? I stopped it when it said project, and I realized I see a space. It looks like that's the word project. All I would need to do is I can scrub back and forth and find that word. Is that it?
our project,
I can hear it.
your project.
That's project. So I'm using a scrub feature to go, that's the word. All I did was I zoomed the timeline out and I found the word by just audio scrubbing, right? Played a little bit till I found it stopped. And instead of using the play button, I'm just moving the playhead to audio scrub and hear the word. Then I could just go, well, that's kind of easy. Let me move this just so you can see it a little bit better. This is the word right here. All I would need to do at that point is, and he asked, like, well, how do I remove that word without affecting my video? Well, every track, this is some of the basics I talked about recently. Whoops. Let me find this over here. Hold on a second. Every track has a lock feature. There's a little lock right there on each track, the audio and the video. If I just decided, well, why don't I lock the video track, put the playhead right here at the beginning of the word. Now you can even, this is a cool thing. Whoops, hold on a second. What you can do, if you look at this, if I go, wait, I need to know that that's the beginning and that's the end. There's even stuff you can do, like use these markers. That's what these markers can be really helpful for. If you've got a lot going on, it's hard to remember. Just select the audio track, put the playhead there, put a marker at the beginning, move the playhead to the end, hit the marker again, and look what let me see if I've got this now. Let me get zoomed in. And now I've just placed a marker in the audio track where the in and out cut points are. If I move the playhead, I got two blue markers. I'm kind of blocking one of them with my fat head. I apologize. But that's all that's doing is showing me those two markers. And then I can go back in. As long as I have the video track locked, then I can just go Control B, and you can see it just put a cut right at that marker. Didn't affect the video track because that's locked. And then I can put the playhead over on the second marker over here. And if I hit Control B again, I've now cut, let me see if I have to have it selected. Let me move the playhead out of the way. I've now isolated that word. I've got it cut at the beginning of the video audio track and at the end of the audio track only at that word. And because I locked the video track, it didn't affect it. Real simple features. And then all I have to do is select this here, and I'm going to use backspace, not delete. If I hit delete on my keyboard, it's going to ripple delete and move everything after it to close the gap. I want to leave the gap. So all I got to do is just select that and hit backspace. And now I've removed that word. It's gone. I've just got the word project taken out of here. And if we shrink this down and play through a little bit, hold on a second. Let me unlock some of this. You grab all these, go like that. Grab these two, go back a little bit, and watch. You'll see the word project is just gone. I got to turn on the audio so you can hear it.
You've got a piece of footage that you want to use in your, but maybe there's only a...
Sounds like I bleep myself. If you want to use in your bleep, bad word.
You've got a piece of footage that you want to use in your, but maybe there's only a certain...
And now I've effectively removed that word. And all I did was very simple features that are, like if you took the time to learn the edit page, there's a timeline zoom that lets you zoom in and out. There's some features on the beginning, the left side of every track that allow you to lock the track or unlock the track. You can cut just by using Control B. These are like the most basic stuff that I covered even in my DaVinci Resolve for Noobs original video. And one I just put out recently where I went through the edit page and some of the changes. I kind of showed where most of this stuff is again and things that have changed. Really simple. So now I just edited out a single word and I didn't affect the video track. And now I can go back in if I wanted to, like what if I want to replace that word? We talked about this recently. Knowing what you can do here is you can left click down on this audio track in this gray area and you can go, I'm going to add another track. Let me add another audio track. And I now have an extra, let me move this up, an extra audio track, audio 2. And up in the upper left, this is a new feature. I love this. They put the voiceover feature right there. And if I click on that, that's going to give me the option. I think I had this off. You didn't even see what I did you? So that was I not even showing you that in real time? I apologize. This one right here, if I blew this, that's your voiceover right there. So if you click that, that's going to give you this voiceover option right there. That's the track where you can go, all right, you can name what you want it to be. You can choose the audio track. I'm going to put that into track 2. I'm going to listen in real time. I'm going to turn off the 3-second countdown. And all I do is move my playhead back. I listen along and I see if I can time my voice to get the word project back in.
You've got a piece of footage that you want to use in your project, but maybe there's only...
That's what I just did. All right. I just grabbed the word. Now this lower track is me talking along.
You want to use in your... But maybe...
Oop, sorry. You got to get the right one enabled. Footage that you want to use in your project. So now I have the word project. Same thing. I just got to go, okay, this is the word project right there. Let me see if I can replace that and put it in. I'm going to shrink this down just by left clicking. I don't have to cut. I can actually like hover on the end of the clip and I can left click hold on the middle and drag it in. I've now got the word project that I've re-recorded. I can drag it up in here a bit and see if I can get it to work. Might be too long, might be all right. You turn the volume up. You'll probably hear the EQ will be a little bit different, but I just threw another piece in. Let's try this.
That you want to use in your project, but
this is a stereo track. Hold on. I can change the track type to mono.
A piece of footage that you want to use in your project, but maybe...
That wasn't too bad. Considering I was on the fly, that was just re-recording right now and dropping that in.
A piece of footage that you want to use in your project, but maybe there's only...
All right, you can adjust that and fix it, make it better. But you see what we just did? It's just very simple things like, oh, we've got a voiceover, we've got we've got the ability to record into a different track. I know how to cut a piece of footage out of an audio track without hurting the video because I can lock the video track, even though those two things might be linked. And you can just do that in the fly. I do this all the time. Sometimes I'll just muff a word. You guys, oh my gosh, the most recent video, the long form I put out, I was trying to show people how to find the open up the sound library and see all your effects, your sound effects. And for some reason to do it, you type quotation, asterisk quotation into the search bar and it shows you all of your sound effects. But for some reason I typed quotation, but I said the word parentheses. I was just having a total brain fart. I couldn't remember what the word for quotation marks was. I didn't catch it. It's actually on the video that's up live now. But if I did, and I was in the middle of the edit, like, oh no, I've already filmed, I could do exactly what I just said and go, I got that line wrong. I called them parentheses instead of quotation marks. Hold on. Let me cut that part out. Let me activate the voiceover. Let me just quickly re-say what this is and blend it in and cut it in there and just get it to fit. And usually it's like I've done this enough that if I just roll back, listen to what I said, and try to say it at the same pacing, I can usually get it right and fit it in there. So that's a great example of like after the fact, like, oh my God, I made a huge mistake. What am I going to do? Set my camera back up and film again? No, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to quickly throw those words in there and I'll figure out a way to edit it so the camera's not on my face. You know, I'll make sure it's on the screen. I'll take my face out of there so you don't see my lips saying parentheses while I'm actually doing quotation marks. And it's just one of those things we're learning to sort of work with the very simplest things: turning on tracks, turning off tracks, cutting footage. That's sort of editing 101, learning to cut parts out, learning to move them together. That's how you can simply not affect other things. So that simple question that the community member asked, it was a great question. But all of those things I've talked about a million times. I've talked about how to use the voiceover more than once. I've talked about how to cut footage. I've talked about how to delete footage without moving the rest of your project. I've talked about how to get the audio scrubbing to work. So all of the things were there. He just hadn't seen all those things and put them together and thought about, oh, I know that trick. I can use that towards this problem I'm having now. That's the single most important lesson I think you can learn. If you can sit there and say, wait a minute, every day if I can learn one more thing. Oh, I was watching a video that Daniel had and he showed me how to cut footage. Cool. You know, I put my playhead there and I hit Control B and it cuts it. Oh, then on a different day, I learned that I can lock the video track and I can go over and put my playhead there and cut again, Control B, and it only controls the audio because I got the other track locked, the video part locked. Cool. I just learned something new that I can put into my mental Rolodex and use potentially in a different situation. And if you just do that with very simple, basic fundamentals, cuts, blocking tracks, learning how to re-record a voice, record a voiceover directly into DaVinci Resolve. You might be thinking like, oh, I was thinking the voiceover feature was when I wanted to do an entire voiceover on a video. I usually record all my voiceovers the same time I'm working. You know, like I'm sitting there, you know, filming my whole thing and I got, you know, my camera going. But there's a perfect example where I may not use voiceover to do an entire voiceover, but I could absolutely use it to fix a mistake that I had said somewhere in the project and blend it back in and not cost me all that work, right? Does that make sense? You see those simple ways that this all starts to come together? Fundamentals. No, I'm not using anything really difficult, really simple, basic fundamentals. Another thing I get, let's look at some of the other questions. I'm going to make sure I pay attention to as many questions as I can here. Let me see. Hard Carry says, can we save this combination of edits somehow so we can apply it to a new clip so we can have our blanking fill? Kind of. That was a good question from before. What he's asking is like, well, if I do all that time to create this blanking fill, you can, but you would have to do it in an adjustment clip. That's a great question. Like if you wanted to save. Have you guys seen me talk about adjustment clips? Adjustment clips. Let me address that because I think that's a really useful situation where being able to save something or do something different can be tricky. Let me just turn off some of this stuff here. Where do I have it? Up here. Okay. So I'm going to mute this and I'm going to bring this over. So I've got this project, right? And what a Hard Carry was like, well, if you went all of that way to create this blanking fill, right? You went, oh, well, what if I want to reuse that? I want to save it someplace. Yeah, you can. There's a thing called an adjustment clip that we've talked about many, many times. If you go up to your effects tab and I should say your toolbox. Let me extend this down. And you actually go to effects. Let me click on this and make sure I don't have anything selected. So all I'm doing is I'm going up to the effects tab and I'm going down to the actual effects options. At the very top, you're going to see adjustment clip. And adjustment clips are, we've talked about these a lot. They're just these giant empty boxes. They start at about this length, but you can change them. You can left click and hold on the end, make them longer, make them shorter. I'm just left clicking on the middle of the end, stretching it out. You can add your things to the adjustment clip and it will affect anything underneath it. Stay with me. I think you know, I just showed you guys how to recreate a blanking fill by doubling a track and putting the effect into the background. Basically go on the lower track, I'll stretch it, I'll blur it. Well, how would I save that? I've talked to you guys about how to create effects. I did this with a waking up effect where I had it like I opened my eyes and my cat was there like staring at my face. If you do something into adjustment clips, you can save the adjustment clip. So instead of taking this and just doubling it, let me just go a little bit bigger. Let me stretch this out. I want to see if I can show you this in real time so that you can understand. This is another one of those perfect, that's a great question by a Hard Carry because it's an exact example of if you know the basics, it's a matter of combining the basics. I'm wondering if a Hard Carry actually knows what an adjustment clip is. If you do, shout it out. If you're like, yeah, I know what that is. If you don't, again, it's just a clip that will affect anything under it. So let's say I've got, if you can see up in the preview window, I put an adjustment clip over this DaVinci Resolve for Noobs clip. If I select the adjustment clip and go up to the upper right transform. So I'm just up here. I'm doing all the same things, right? I can do that with the adjustment clip selected and see how it still looks like I'm affecting that clip. You're doing it in the adjustment clip and it affects everything below and all the same things apply. I can rotate, I can change the position. All of those same things apply. So I'd have to go, well, wait a minute. On the bottom track, what I want to do is I think I wanted to, what did we do first? We unlinked the zoom, the X and Y zoom. So let's unlink that. Let's stretch, oops, I didn't unlink it. Gotta unlink it. I gotta make sure that that is unlinked. If I reset that, unlink, okay, it is now unlinked. And I stretch the Y zoom so it's all the way out. Okay, there's Daniel, wider and fatter than you ever want him to be. Let me just silence this so I'm not hearing the pings. Okay. Now, what did we do next? We added a blur. We went up to effects. Remember, we had effects on. We said, oh, we found a blur. I'll type in blur. Here's box blur. I'm going to bring that down into the adjustment clip, turn up the blur, okay? Now, everything that we did before is all in this adjustment clip. If I move the adjustment clip away from the playhead, it only affects what's directly below it. So all I needed to do there was, remember we said all you have to do is hold Alt, click on your video, and lift up. You can duplicate it. Let's lift it up one track higher. Let's bring this in underneath. But blanking fill. But all we did was we used what we know, that adjustment clip. So instead of applying all of our stretching and our blur to the bottom clip when we duplicated clips to do this blanking fill, let's go, wait a minute, what if I put it in adjustment clip between the two? Remember I told you, think about depth. Don't just think about stacking and height. So background, foreground, and we had taken the background and stretched it out and blurred it. But I want to be able to save those effects, and I want to make sure that I can do that effectively. What if I put an adjustment clip between those two and did all of the work in that adjustment clip? Now what I can do is, a lot of you know that we have these things over here called, whoops, let me find it, called power bins. Okay, that's a power bin. And if you don't see your power bins, make sure you have media pool selected and turn on. Then go to the upper right where this 3-dot ellipsis is right there. And if you click on that, you will see there is an option for show power bins. By default, I think it's turned off. So just make sure you have a check mark next to that, and it will show you these power bins that are just below your regular master folders and everything. You can take this adjustment clip and just left click hold and drag it up into the power bin. And it's now up here. It's going to be up here now. You're going to have it in this, where did I just stick it? Oh, it's right up here. Adjustment clip. And you can rename it. Another thing is anything that's in your media pool, whether it's in the power bins or the regular media pool, if you just click on the name, you'll see that it highlights. Let me see if you can see this. You see how it just got kind of highlighted in gray? It'll highlight, and once it highlights, you can backspace out of it. And what do we want to call this one? Want to call this blanking fill? Okay, I just retyped blanking fill in there, and now it's typed and it's named blanking fill. Okay, so now I've got a blanking fill ready to go for next time. So if I have a different, let's say I started completely from scratch, and I go, wait a minute, I want to do this blanking fill thing. I've got my master track. I bring my 16:9 footage down into my project. I know right off the bat, oh, I know what I have to do. I'm going to lock the audio because I don't want to duplicate the audio. Hit Alt, left click, and I'm going to drag up not one track, but 2 tracks to leave room for, I'm going to click over to my power bin, to leave room for my blanking fill. Let's hope sure I got this right. And if I bring this down, boom, I put that between them. There is my blanking fill. Got it. So I can reuse it on other projects. I just saved it as an adjustment clip. That makes it really simple. Power bins are so powerful. Oh, right here, Imagine Art Gaming. Hey, thanks for the $2 super chat. I really appreciate that. It means a lot to me, my friend. That is what he said. I love power bins. Power bins are basically folders that are not project specific. They're database specific. As long as you're using the same database, which most of us do, the next time you open another project, a brand new project in DaVinci Resolve, then you will have, let's do that. Let me try this. Watch this. I will open up, let me do this. I'm going to make sure you can see. I am going to open up the project manager right here, and I'm going to click on new project, and let's just call it whatever. So I open up whatever, okay? And if you look in the power bins, this is a brand new project. There's blanking fill waiting for me, right? So I've got that ready to go, and I don't have to worry about like rebuilding, like you said. I still have to separate the 2 tracks, and I have to, duplicate it, separate it, and put it in the middle. But that's pretty quick if you ask me. I think is it much longer than finding it in the effects menu and dragging it down onto your clip? It takes up an extra track. There's a potential, because you are using 2 tracks, it's going to use a little more system resource because it's playing 2 video tracks instead of 1. So it's just one of those things. It's kind of a trade-off in life. Like, is it one of those things you make a mental checklist and go, okay, that's the 6th thing that I wish I could have done in free version that's easier in the studio version. And if you start getting a big enough list, maybe it's time to think about buying a license for the studio version. But you don't need to if you can do this. If this is all you need, and you're like, I just need a couple of simple things. recreate them. And now you just did that. You saved a blanking fill option. Okay, perfect, nice and easy. Are adjustment clips in the free version? Yes, they are. Metalcraft FPV. They're absolutely available in the free version. Everything I'm pretty much showing you here, if there's something that's studio only, I'll say, hey, this is studio only, okay? But that's a nice, simple way to recreate stuff from the studio version in the free version. Let me keep going through some. I'm going back and forth on questions. I just grabbed one from the chat. Let me go back to, let me see if I can find this folder again. Where did I put this? Let me see what this one was. Let me check this one out. Okay. How do I this was a question that came from the comments section, and it was, how do I mask out a window and have a video slowly fade into that space? Okay, this is where we get a little more complicated. I don't know if any of you guys have tried masking. I think a lot of you have. Give me a show of hands. Thumbs up if you've tried masking before, or you could just do yes or no. Give me a positive or a negative. If you've tried masking and you understand basic masking techniques, give me a thumbs up, a yes. And if you don't, be like, no, that's like beyond my skill level. Because masking to me is sort of like the next level of fundamentals. I think learning how to mask is extremely important. Like when we did I cloned myself with that symbol piece of footage, it was just cropping. But sometimes you need to mask and have more control. I'm seeing a thumbs up from Mountain Wolf. I'm seeing a thumbs up from Imagine Art Gaming. I'm seeing a thumbs down from a Hard Carry. Jake Smooth Production says thumbs up. All right, so we're a little bit back and forth. Nicole says, I tried, but I failed. I think that happens sometimes. Talkie Spielt says, sorry, it didn't work for me. I haven't tried it anyway. All right, let's talk about this. Masking is a very different thing than what we've done so far. The thing about masking is this is where it's going to drag you into, Trish says, yeah, sadly, yes, I have tried masking. It's going to drag you into either the color page or Fusion, because both of those pages can mask in different ways. So if you had the question, which was, how do I mask out, what was it? I think it was a window. I have to look again what the actual question was. Let's see if I can find that again. Where the heck, where did I lose it to? 1 second, I'll find it. Right here. All right, I got it again. The question was, it was how do I mask out a window and have a video slowly fade into that? All right, let's try this. Let's tie this in real time, all right? I'm going to do this really quickly. Let's cut over to here. I'm going to open up Google. Let's open up a Google window. Give me 1 second here. Boom. Boom. And I'm going to bring this over. New window. And let me just go crazy here. Let's go to our good friends at Storyblocks, who I do love, who are not sponsoring this video, but we do love them. I do have to thank DaVinci Resolve, who do sponsor all of this stuff. We love having them as a sponsor. By the way, I didn't even mention this yet. DaVinci Resolve has been a sponsor on the channel for the last year. They signed in October of last year, and our contract is up as of October, which has been a great relationship. They've been, they leave me alone. They just keep making the stuff you're making. We really love it. We think you're really helping people. And I just wanted to let you know that we have just signed a new contract, and we're blessed to have them as a sponsor for the channel for the next year. So they're around till at least another year. We'll be working on DaVinci Resolve. So get used to it, because you're going to get more of the same. That's what we're doing here. I love it. I love them so much. They're great people. So here, I'm going to just grab, was it a window? I'm going to go over to images. I'm going to see if I can find a window in Storyblocks. And let's see if we can see a picture of a window. All right. That's a picture of a window right there, right? Let me see. This one's a window. So let's just download that real quick. And then I will open that up, show in folder. Boom. Let me get this out of here. Let's open up this again. And I'm going to take this, drag it into I don't want to drag it in my power bins. I'm going to drag this over, and I'm going to drag this into my media pool. So now I have a window just in my timeline. It's just a picture of a window. All right. You could do this with video too, but you have to do some tracking. It depends on it. I'm going to start with a still image, because it'll get you through most of it. if we want to mask this out, I'm going to start with the color page because I think the color page is actually kind of cool. I think it usually works pretty good. So here's this window. If I want to mask out the window, and let me explain what I'm talking, when I mean mask, is the masking is sort of like defining an area and removing it. That's what masking is. It's sort of like saying this section here that I'm going to make a dotted line, everything inside or outside of that, remove it. And you can choose, do you want it everything outside of the area that you select or everything inside of the area, you can remove it. So what we're going to do here is, let me switch back over. I got this window. It's got 2 window panes, right? It's like a double folding window, casement window. So what I want to do is I actually want to select down here. These are called power windows, but they're masks in the color page. If I select one, you'll see, because there are all these different options. If I select that power windows option, you'll see down below, it gives me all these options for different shapes of masks. You can do a square, rectangle one, a circle one, line ones. I like this freehand pen one. That's a really good one. Let's use that. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to mask out this right here. Boom, boom. And all I'm doing is I'm clicking on the corners. All right. Let me see if I can do this. If you noticed, I just clicked like every corner of this window. And I'm creating that first mask on the first pane. And you can adjust them. If you get them wrong, you can grab those little marks you just made and readjust them. In fact, there's actually if you look, I'm actually masking up part of the handle. So I may want to like add a couple of dots in here and go, wait a minute, hold on. I gotta pull it out so that it's not like crushing that handle and eliminating the window handle. Let's see, is that better? That looks like I kind of got around the handle that time. All right. I just created the area that I want to mask out, but it didn't remove anything. And the reason it didn't remove anything yet is when you create a mask in the color page, you have to do a thing, which is right click up in this gray area. These are our nodes, our color nodes. And you want to add an alpha output. Just click on that and you'll see what happens. See how there's like one green output dot here? If I click on right click, add an alpha output, whoop, hold on. What did I just do? Right click, add an alpha output. There we go. I got my head together. Now you can see, I think you can see, is it off screen? Maybe it is off screen. See how much I can zoom in here. Hold on, I'll try to get closer. All right. Can you see that? It adds this extra blue dot right below the green dot. The green dot is the main output. But if you want transparency, you want to be able to see the transparency in your video, they call that alpha, an alpha channel. And it's basically a set of instructions that tells the software, hey, this video clip, part of it is going to be invisible. Just completely remove it and let things show through. Transparency, alpha channel. Whenever you talk about alpha channels, that's what we mean. So we're going to add an alpha channel, and then we're going to, you'll see there's a blue dot on the output of my node here. I just need to connect it. So I'm going to left click, hold, and drag, and let me see if you can see this. I'm just making a connector line down there. Can you see? I just connected the blue part to that blue dot. And once they're connected, I'm good to go. I have to make sure it's connected. Watch the left window pane the minute I connect it. Whoop, let me see if I can connect it. Come on, Daniel, do your thing. Act like you've done this before. Boom. Right now, it did the opposite of what I want. It removed everything but the window. So I'm like, oh no, I wanted to remove the window. I just wanted to take the stuff out of the window. I didn't want to remove everything else. No worries. If you look down here, you've got options to either invert or deactivate any of the masks that you have selected. It's just 2 dots right to the right of it in that selection area. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to, I believe it's this one. I clicked on this, and it's kind of really obvious because it went from like a lighter circle with a darker surround. It just basically, do you want the circle or the stuff inside the circle or the stuff outside of the circle to be removed? And the minute I did that, now you'll see the window is black. It's black because you can see right through it. I have masked out the window pane. There's a way to do this. I haven't done it in color page, but anyway, I'm going to start with the 1. There's a way to do 2. I think I have to start with the main node and put my first mask in the first node after it. Sometimes the connection points I forget, but basically I've taken out 1 window. I'm going to deal with 1 pane today. Keep it simple. I'm going to go back over here, and I'm now on the edit page, and you can see I've masked out that 1 pane. I'm going to lift that up into another track. I'm going to find some kind of video to put behind here. Hey, let's put DaVinci Resolve for noobs, right? Why not? Let's have Daniel playing, Daniel's videos playing this window. It's too big, right? I've got that window pane masked out, but my video's too big. You can see like my face is kind of chopped off. This is right back to what we did before, right? This is go to the transform option right here. This is exactly what we just talked about at the beginning. Turn on the transform option with that track selected. And then it puts those dots up there, and I can just shrink it down and go, oh, wait a minute. I want to put my DaVinci Resolve for noobs video. I can stretch it, make it bigger. I'll just leave it like right in the window. And now when I go back and I play, I've got me playing up in the window pane. Like there's Daniel. Apparently his videos are coming into people's homes through their windows. That's scary, isn't it? But if you look, see, now I've got a window masked out, and my DaVinci Resolve for noobs is playing up in that window. Now, the question was another layer beyond that. The person actually asked, well, how do I put that into a window? And beyond that, like, how do I get it to fade in? I want it to gradually fade in. Well, now it gets a little trickier, right? Because now you go, well, they wanted it to be like a window and then the video faded in. And it depends on what the specifics were of how they wanted it to fade. I just took out the window pane, and back inside of the footage, as you saw, I just lifted it up into track 2 and then put a track below it. So basically my video was playing through. The part I had cut out is now transparent. So my video is underneath it, thinking of layers. My video up in this right now is technically in the background, and all I did was change the size of it. It's behind that window, and I just changed the size to kind of roughly fit it in that frame. So it's just playing in the background there, right? So this whole window thing, foreground, my video, background, I just masked out that window pane. So like, but she said very specifically, well, then how would I get it to, I want to get it to like fade in. I don't want it to just be playing. I want it to be like there's a window and all of a sudden, oh, this video starts appearing through it. Okay. This is where you have to get a little tricky. Like, well, what do I know? I know it would be an image of the window without the video playing. And then I would like to have the video start playing. Now, there's a few ways to do this. How to get something to fade in. One of the easiest ways to get something to fade in that we have learned, let me show you this, I think you know, is that you'll see this little white corner key right there. That's a fade in. Any track, the audio tracks have them too. You can fade in audio. You can fade in from black video. If you grab that corner key and drag it to the right, it's going to create a fade in. So it's exactly what I'm going to do. Can you see right here? Let me see if I can get in. I just dragged that from left to right. Left click held and drag that corner key over. Now what will happen, the farther I drag it, the slower the fade. It's going to be like black window pane, and as it fades in, you'll see my video starts appearing, which that's not exactly what she wanted, right? She didn't say she wanted like a weird black window pane. She kind of wanted a video to start playing in a window, but was it going to be just a weird black or transparent? It'll show up as black when I export it. That doesn't make any sense. How do I get it to go from the original footage to fading into the video? That's one of those things when you start thinking about, all right, what's the simplest way to get to where I'm going, to get to, to get from here to there. Okay, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm thinking, guys. I'm going, wait a minute. I have this track right here. This is the window that's masked. If instead of thinking about fading the video in, why don't I let the video play, but why don't I fade from a version of the window that has no mask on it and fade into a version that has the mask? That's simple. That's something my brain can wrap around. So if I were to do, let's start with there. Why don't I just take this track right here and duplicate it? And this is something we already did today. I'm going to hit Alt, left click on that video track of the window. It's an image track. I'm going to lift up if it'll let me. Go up, please. Boom. I now have two. They're duplicated. Now they both have masks on them. I'm like, crap. All right, hold on. I don't want masks on both. I know what I'm going to do. Let me just lock the first track. That's another thing we talked about earlier, right? Let me just go over here. I'm just going to lock the first track. And with the second track there, I'm going to go over to the color page again. This should be my second track. The first one's locked. Where's my clips? Let me turn that on. There's my clips. And I'm going to delete that second one, and I'm going to right click up in the node area. Let me see if I can show you. Right click right up on the node, and I'm going to reset that node, which is going to take all the mask away. Right? So I'm just going to reset it. Boom. Now there's no mask. I just took that second clip and I put it back to I took off everything I did in the color correction for it. There's no more masks added. I can see both windows. And if I go back to the main page, well, let's think about what we had here, right? Let's break this down. What we had was, we had this track of me, the little DaVinci Resolve video. We have this other window that has a masked out pane, and this new one that we put on top that's in front of all of the other layers that has no mask. Okay. So why don't we just fade? Why don't we do a crossfade from this one into this one? How hard can that be? Let's just fade from one to the other. So we start with a full 2 panes of glass, and then the video will be playing. It'll just fade in. That's pretty simple, right? Now, there's a couple different ways to do this. I could just grab, left click and hold on the end of the second one, pull it back, right? That's all I did. I just grabbed the end of this thing right here, left, and pulled it back. And remember we talked about the corner keys? If I just left click on that corner key and I drag it in, you see what I just did there? I just grabbed the corner. So I shrunk this back, and then I did a fade out of the original that has no mask. Simple. Add another track, no effects, have it playing, and have it fade. Instead of thinking fade in, why don't we fade out from the original one? So once I've done that, I can set that to wherever I want. Let me get the fade out a little longer. And now when I play through, what it'll do is it'll start fading from the original window into the one that has the mask, which is allowing the video underneath to play through. So full screen window. Now you see it starts to fade out. My video, it looks like my video's fading in. It's not fading in. I faded out the original image. I just took the simplest way was put the one that had no mask on top of it, duplicate it, and fade it out. And then it'll show the one that, so we set up all the other stuff underneath. Now you've got my video playing through a window, and it looks like that faded in, but I did the simplest thing possible. I went, this was easy. I'll duplicate and fade out. Now I've got that playing in a window. So we did exactly what she said by utilizing masking in the color page, which, as you see, I was struggling. I'm so used to doing 2 masks in Fusion, which uses paint mode and lets 2 happen. I gotta remember how I do it in color page because I never do. But I just created a mask, masked out the window, right? Created an alpha channel, connected it. Now it's gone. Now we've removed it. I put the video underneath of DaVinci Resolve for noobs. And then on top, I just laid the original track with no mask and faded out of it. So it seems like those things are happening. And it was just working. Sometimes you have to step back from the problem and go, wait a minute. I'm saying fade in, but does it need to be a fade in? Could it be a fade out from the original window that had no video playing in it to a picture that had a video playing in it? So I'm actually fading out from one without a video into one that did have a video. So it was the same, but it creates the same effect. It allowed that video to slowly show up in that window pane and seem like originally there was like a glass and I could see the tree, and then it switched over to, this. Then it's a matter of like, well, what if you want to change the speed, right? Then the speed's going to be controlled by how long this is and how far back I've pulled the corner key. If I'm sitting here and I go, let's not fade out, let me grab the corner key and pull it so that the fade is not so long. All I did was grab this and pull it to the right. So it's a faster dissolve out. That's just a quick dissolve out. If I make that faster, then that'll be faster. It can be super fast. I can sit here and go, okay, I'm just going to hit that and I'm going to shrink the corner key. Am I playing? There we go. And now it fades in much quicker. Do you see how much? Because I just shrunk that down and said, well, let's just make the fade out from the original clip a little bit faster. It's happening a little later. And the fade itself is a little quicker. It doesn't take as long to fade in. And then how long I want the original window to be an original window depends on how long this clip is. And I go, well, I only want it to be a window for a second, and then the video starts playing. That means I would shrink this down so it's really short. I only want it to play as a full window for a few frames, and then it fades in. If I do it that way, I should get a fairly quick change to there's me in the window playing my video. So this is all just rethinking the way you look at a problem. If you can think about basics, how can I do this easy? I don't want to I don't want to reinvent the wheel. I want to take simple things that I know. The hardest thing we had to learn here was how to apply a mask. And once you learned how to apply the mask, you can come right back into the edit page and you can start stacking and going, well, I already know how to do things like fade in a clip or fade out a clip. I already know how to stack layers and duplicate. I already know how to lock a track, right? I know how to do all these. I know how to change. I got to get that video to fit in the window, right? But I know how to do that because Daniel showed me down in the corner, there's that little transform. I turn that on and I can just grab right on screen and I can shift that video around behind my masked window track and get it to fit right in that open cutout hole in the window. So it's really thinking about simple, basic fundamentals that you can use in combination to really take your editing to the next level. All right, am I losing anybody here? Does this all kind of make sense? Really kind of straightforward stuff, using very simple techniques to really elevate your editing process. And when you can start thinking this way, if you can get your brain like kind of tapped into the idea of, wow, I got to stop overcomplicating it. I need to simplify and go, what's the fastest way around a solution? There's an old story. A guy was in a giant 18-wheel truck down in the city, drove into a bridge. The bridge was too low, wedged the truck into the bridge. And they had the truck drivers out there, they had the DPW out there, and they were all looking at this problem like, how do we get the truck up? Well, we can, maybe we can cut out part of the top of the truck and try to pull it back. It was wedged. They couldn't figure out how to get it out. And a little kid comes up and says, why don't you just let the air out of the tires? Let the air out of the tires, the truck went down, they pulled it right out. And it's the idea of, wow, sometimes it's just about stepping back and rethinking the problem. Because maybe there's a simpler solution to do exactly what you need without overcomplicating it. And I think that's 90% of the kinds of editing questions that I get in the community are just that. They're asking questions that are like, they're overcomplicating it. And I think when you overcomplicate things, that's when things get really problematic for a lot of creators. I'm just looking at some of the questions here. You have to excuse me. I'm working my way through. Did we get another one? Did I get Byron Brightman, a $2 super chat? Do power bins work for collaboration projects? That's a good question. If you share, that's a good question. If you take the database and share the database, yes, you can do archives. A lot of times, when people think about when we do saving our projects, and that's something I talk about a lot, learning some of the basic features. You can save a project, but saving a project, when we talk about bringing something into DaVinci Resolve, we're not really bringing anything in. We're just telling DaVinci Resolve where those things are on our computer. If you say, I brought in this piece of footage, no, you didn't. You just told DaVinci Resolve where that piece of video footage is on your computer. If you move it, it's going to give you the dreaded media offline because it's not what you said it was. It never came into the project. But if you archive projects, which is something I try to remind everybody to do if they're trying to keep it nice and easy, most of us know, like when you finish a project, it kind of auto saves. You can save your project, but it kind of auto saves, which is cool. But it's only saving the project itself. It's not saving all of these things here. It's saving the timeline, but it's not saving all these assets you brought in, your video clips, your audio clips. If you want to save all of those things, what you'd actually want to do is go to your project manager. That's the first pop-up screen where it's like, which project, are you going to work on today? A new one or something? I've got a bunch because I'm always working on something. What you'd want to do is you'd actually want to right-click on one of these icons here, whichever project it is that you want to work on. Let me see if I can show you. Let me get back here. And you want to export project archive. If you archive a project, what it'll do, let me see, I'm going to click on this one just to show you. I'm going to go right click, export project archive. It's going to pick a spot that you want to save it to, but then it's got, right? So it picks a folder. You open up, tell what folder on your computer you want to use. But then it's going to say, well, what do you want me to include with it? Well, I want you to include my media files. Do I need my render cache? Maybe not. If I made proxy media, do you want that to go with it? Maybe, maybe not. And what it'll do is you hit OK, it's going to take the entire project and your video assets and archive it with it. I use this a lot. Like when I'm on the road, I tend to edit with a MacBook Pro. So I'll start a project here in my studio, and then all of a sudden I'll be like on the road. I'm like, oh, I got to work on my project. The great thing about DaVinci Resolve is it's not OS specific for projects, saving projects. I can archive a project here onto like a thumb drive or whatever I want to. And I can bring that with me and I can put it into my MacBook Pro, even though I'm working on PC here. I put it into my MacBook, I open it back up. And when I go to open that back up, all I need to do is open up the project manager again, right? I think, let's see. Let me do right here. And all I got to do is right click anywhere in the gray area. And you will see it has the option to restore a project archive. And if I do that, I can I'll pick where that project archive is. It's on a thumb drive. And it'll bring the whole project in with all the video clips, with all the audio. That's a great thing. Even if you aren't working on multiple systems, if you finish a project, don't be afraid to archive it somewhere. Then you go like, I'm going to save that onto wherever as an archive. And if you ever open that up again and you open up that archive version, you'll have all of the clips and everything you used within it. Now, specific to the question of power bins, you can share your power bin folders. If you save everything into power bin locations, what you can do is if you're working on with somebody else is you can share your power bins and say, hey, these are the assets. These are all the assets from my power bin location. And you can export those too. And I believe, hold on a second. I remember there was an easier way. I don't do this very often. Yeah. Okay. So let me show you where to do this. It's if you right click, like here's my power bins. All I did was I grabbed the master file. I right clicked on it and you see it says export bin. You can export that entire bin with all of the media and stuff. And then you could send that along to anyone else who might be working on your project and go, here's my entire bin of content. And they'll have your power bin assets as well. So there are different options for sharing with different people. It does work, but sometimes it's just understanding the difference between like saving and archiving when you're using group projects. If you're using Blackmagic Cloud, that saves everything to the cloud. So I don't do projects with the cloud. I believe if you share it to the cloud, that it also can save your power bin files. If someone knows that, if I'm wrong here, someone tell me. But when you're using cloud projects, it uploads all the assets to a cloud that you can share with other people who are working on it. So that would be the easiest way to share a project with like a fellow worker. Let me see. What streaming app is Daniel using? Where can he zoom in on? Oh, okay. So I'm not using a streaming app. I'm actually using a Rodecaster Pro, which is a hardware device right on my desk. And all I'm using to zoom in is a cool little product that's available for free right here on my desktop. Let me see. It's called Zoom It. It's a little app that you can download for free. It's for Windows. I believe it's Windows only, not Mac. And once you install it, like it has a bunch of different things there's a whole bunch of features. It can actually record video. It can record images, just all kinds of things. But what I use it for is it's a quick keyboard shortcut. It'll zoom in. Let me open up DaVinci Resolve so you can see. I hit a keyboard shortcut. It zooms in. I click on it. It allows me to put a cursor. Like it's basically a keybind, control and the number 1, and then it zooms back out. That's what I use. So it's a separate, just a separate plugin that's free, the browser extension. It's actually not a browser extension. It's actually an app. It could work on browsers, but it works on your desktop too. This is my desktop and you can see I can zoom in. Whoop, until I hit the edge. I can zoom in. I can even zoom in farther. And I can circle things. There's Handbrake. You guys all use Handbrake, right? It's great for compressing. You guys all use NordVPN, Reaper. These are all the things on my desktop. But nice and simple. I don't use anything fancy. It's I like simple. I'm a guy who records my screen captures with Bandicam. I like using Zoom It for when I do these live streams so I can show you stuff. And sometimes I stumble through it. It's not perfect, but it allows me. I think it's important to have the ability for me to zoom up to something and go, can you see right here? So simple stuff. That's all free. If you're ever looking to have something like that, Zoom It is the app. Let me go back to some of the questions we had here. So I can go to this next one. Let's see. Open with, what was this one? All right, let me see what I got here. Okay. When we talk about questions, this is a question I got this says 3 hours ago. I think it was yesterday or the day before. Could you make a video of the Fusion tab for Studio? I'm trying to master VFX to make it like After Effects or something like that. I do not want to pay for a subscription. So the request is, could you make a video that teaches me everything I need to know about Fusion so I can make it do everything that After Effects does? Okay. Anybody want to be on my side on this one? Anybody ever used the Fusion page? It is not easy. It is not easy. And there is no such thing as a single video that would allow me to explain to somebody how to use the Fusion page, and they would walk away and be the guy wanted to master the Fusion page with a single video. There's another thing that I run into where I refer to it as being out over your skis. Anyone ever heard that expression before? Being out over your skis means you're in a position where you're asking questions and you're in trouble, but you don't realize the trouble you're in. It's an expression from skiers, like, because you need to stay centered, your weight over your skis. And a lot of times skiers get going too crazy and their body leans forward. They haven't crashed yet, but they're out over their skis, their body weight, and trouble is imminent. They're going to crash. That's the same. I agree. The Create and Relate said that would take 3 weeks. Yeah, that'd take weeks. It would be a video that would literally be, weeks long, because there's so much information and it wouldn't cover every use case. One of those things is learning how to learn is a big thing that I try to talk to people about. Why I talk about simplifying things is, like, learn the basics. And when you've mastered the basics, then push a little bit. And I'm not saying you shouldn't push a little bit along the way. But if you look at Resolve and go, oh, I want to do some crazy thing that's beyond your capabilities, not slightly, but immensely. If someone leaves me a question and says, well, how do I do this thing? I have a car, I want the car to be moving, and I want the windows to be cropped out. I want to crop out, mask out the windows, and then I want to put myself in the car driving. How do I do that? Well, the first question I ask is like, making things move, that's keyframing. We've talked about that a bunch. Masking, we talked about that here today, how to mask things out. Do you know how to mask? Do you know how to keyframe? And the answer is always like, no, I don't know any of that. So now it's sort of like, Megan and I were at a motorcycle show yesterday, and there was this whole team of guys and girls motorcycles, and they were all really good. But we were watching these people, like, get up on these motorcycles, stand on the seats, pull a wheelie, and ride the wheelie across an entire parking lot. If someone came to me and said, I want to learn how to stand up on the seat of a motorcycle, pull a wheelie, and ride across a parking lot, and I said, cool, how long have you been riding? And they said, I've never ridden before. I would say, you're out over your skis. You're asking too much right at the beginning. You learn the stuff, learn the simple stuff first, right? Megan, what do they call it in skiing? It's like pizza and
French fries.
French fries, pizza and French fries. If you ever go to a ski slope and you watch the instructors teaching people how to ski, the little kids, they'll go pizza. What they do is they tell you, put the tips of your skis together. It slows you down and allows you to turn easily. So when the instructors are working with the kids, when they want them to slow down and put their ski tips together, it's like a triangle, like a piece of pizza. You hear them screaming, pizza, pizza. And then when they want them to put their skis straight side by side and move a little faster, they yell French fries, because I guess two skis side by side look like French fries. French fries. I got to tell you, if you ever want to learn to ski and you're on a diet, don't go, because they're just yelling out food that you probably shouldn't be eating the whole time. But you can hear an entire mountain in the learning area. They're going pizza, French fries. But you got to learn the pizza and French fries before you can go, I'm going to go into the park and hit that, that rail and then do this 20-foot jump. You have to learn the basics first. If you aren't like really comfortable with those, all of the rest of the stuff is going to be so much harder, because you never learn the simple parts. If you weren't able to control yourself on a set of skis, then trying to do jumps is crazy. If you haven't learned to be really comfortable on a motorcycle, then trying to pull a wheelie is going to be crazy. You're going to get really hurt. So yeah, now I'm hungry. I hear you chill mode, JD. You really want to start with the basics and learn the basics. You'll be surprised how far the basics can take you. And I'm not just making this stuff up. I literally do get these questions that are exactly like I say they are. Sometimes I think it's, people think like, no one really asked you that, did they? I'm like, trust me, I get questions, and I love questions. I'm not throwing anyone under the bus. I think questions are great, but knowing where you are and when you're over your skis, right? This is one, right? I've been watching your videos and they're so helpful, but I have a question. After I remove a green screen background, so this was someone had a green screen background piece of footage. Which I always get confused when someone says, how do I green screen this footage? And I'm like, you don't green screen it. If you filmed in front of a green screen, then you chroma key. But I think sometimes younger creators confuse background removal with green screen. They're two different things. they effectively do the same thing. You use a chroma key if you're in front of a green wall or a green sheet or, like a pull-up, then you can pull out the green and the background is removed. But if you have something like just sitting in a studio like this, you'd have to mask out the background, right? But it sounds like you remove the background. I want to put an image of a car, and I wonder, how do I put myself in the driver's seat of the car? Can you do a vid for it? And I'm like, wait a minute. I'm not sure that you've watched a lot of my videos, because if you had, and nothing against Cy, I appreciate this great question, but if you'd watched my videos, you probably have seen me do masking. You've probably seen me do all of these things before, and I've covered everything you need to know to do something like this. What you probably don't know is where to do it, how to combine those elements together. But this is like a great question, but this is one of those ones where I worry sometimes to make sure you don't get yourself out over your skis. If I were to do this, I'll tackle it. We'll see if we can get through it, right? So here's one. I put myself in a car and I want the window masked out and I want to be driving a car. How do I do all that? This is where you start getting like a little more complex. And this is where you're still using the basics, but you start thinking about how to combine them a little bit different. So let me get rid of some stuff here. Hold on a second. Let me go back to master. Let's start with, let me bring in something, see what we can work with. No, let's see, desktop. Let me find some stuff to work with here, my friends. Okay, let's do this. We'll start with something simple. I'm going to just start with an image. That'll work, right? I'm going to bring an image into my project. It's a street. That's all this is. It just looks like you're on like a side view of a road and looking out across the lane and looking out. This is the one we had Casey floating up in the hot air balloon. So it's a road. Okay. Step 2. I want to have a car, but I want to mask out like the background. I think I have a truck. Hold on a second. I think I have a truck. Do I have a truck? Yeah, I have a truck. Let me see. This is a truck. Let me move this and put this right here. Okay, let me full screen this. Now I have a truck with a Christmas tree in the back. And the background has already been removed. So he said he'd already done that part. He had whatever, a car or whatever, and it was a green screen or whatever. He had removed the background. So this is a truck with the background removed. So you can see some pickup truck with a Christmas tree. And now I just stuck it over. We did the thing I showed you before, right? This is where having these on-screen transform controls are super helpful. Because I'm going, okay, my truck's there, but do you see it? It's like, oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. This truck is like floating off the road. It's like the possessed truck. We need to get those wheels, those tires down onto the road. Okay, so perfect. We select the truck clip right here. Make sure it's outlined in red. We go up and we turn on that transform option. And now we have the ability to left click right inside of the preview window. And let's bring that truck down. I'm just going to pull him down onto the road a bit. Like maybe, I don't know. Where's he supposed to be? Maybe here? So that's all I did, right? This is everything we just talked about recently. I had a background layer. I added a layer on top of it. It's a truck. Here's the truck on top of that layer. Now, this is actually, this truck isn't just a standard image. It's actually a video that recycles. That actually looks like the truck is kind of driving. Let me go full screen. Can you see like the tree is kind of bouncing in the back? The wheels are moving a little bit. The truck is actually shaking a little bit. You probably can't see it, but the windshield wipers are actually moving. This whole truck has a little bit of motion to it. When the truck is a-rocking, don't bother knocking. So that's what's going on there. So we have that. We have this truck now put over the road. But he was asking, okay, I know how to do that. Well, what if I want to put myself inside the truck? This is, again, one of those masking techniques where you go, it can get easy or it can get complicated. I'll go a little complicated because whatever, we've done a lot of easy stuff. Let's go crazy and let's go into the Fusion page. All right. So I'm going to open up this in Fusion. All right. But actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to build it as a Fusion composition. That's the way I want to do it first. Hold on one sec. I'm going to build this as a Fusion composition. So I'm going to get rid of the truck. And I am going to just start with the background. And I'm going to go into Fusion. Okay, I'm going to keep it simple. All right, let me go one screen. Now I've just got the background. We're going to build everything in Fusion. Some people always yell at me like, why don't you build everything in Fusion? Because it's hard. It's scary sometimes. So let's see if we can do this. I've got a background. I want to add that truck we just talked about, right? So I'd say, well, this, you guys know, media in, that's this picture. Media out, that just sends it back out to my timeline. And the wire that connects it, the cable, right? This is the guitar and the amp. If you unplug the guitar from the amp, you don't get any sound. If you unplug the media in from the media output, you don't get any image. So we got to make sure it's plugged in so we can see it. And that's this media right here. Now we go, wait a minute, I want to add a truck on here. But you saw how we did it in the edit page. We just dropped it into a track above the main footage. But let's go up to the media pool and let's find that. Do you see it right up there on the left? I can see that right there. Boom. So let's just open the media pool and let's bring that down, and we're going to add that in by what you do is you grab the output node and you connect it to the output of the background. Let me see if I can zoom in. See what I'm doing here? Right here is you just grab that output and you drag it down and connect it to this other output, and it'll automatically create a merge node and put it on top. So all it did now, if you can see, it makes this merge node happen. So now there's our background. There's our truck. They're being merged together, and they're going out to the output. And it's actually really important for you guys who are not really familiar with Fusion, is these nodes actually have assignments. Let me see if I can just hover. I don't know if it'll do it. Okay. The green, I was just hovering on that, is the foreground. The yellow is the background. If I switch these two inputs and made the truck go to the background, and I put the picture of the highway into the foreground, you wouldn't see the truck because the background would be blocking it. So those little merge nodes decide which layer should be on top of the other layer. So that was nice and simple. I just put the truck on top of the background using a merge node. And the merge node appeared just by dragging the output to the other output, right? Hey, Ed, how you doing, pal? Now, we're back in the same situation. We've got a floating truck. Nobody likes a floating truck, right? So like, well, how do I get this truck not to float? I don't want it to float. Well, this is where we have to, normally, if I wanted to move, I would use in the edit page, I would have just gone to that on-screen transform, right? Click that transform option, and I would have had all those dots on screen, and I would have moved the truck. It's not too different in Fusion. You just got to find a transform option, and because everything is nodes, we need to add a transform node. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this is the background truck node. I'm going to select that. And right above it here, you'll see there's a list of options. That's the transform option. And if you select the truck node and then click transform, it'll add it in line. It sticks it right in here automatically. You don't have to disconnect or reconnect. So I hit that and boom. And now you'll see, just like I said, oh, there we go. There's a transform node. And that just gives you all of those transform controls for the truck. Just like if you were in the timeline, if you clicked on the truck, you would be able to go up to the inspector, transform, or use the transform on screen option. This is giving us those same set of controls, but we have to add the transform node. So we have the controls. And when I select it, you'll see in the upper right, some kind of very familiar stuff, right? Center X, center Y, size, angle, flip, slightly different, but they're the same motion, right? Left pivot, right? All the same thing. So I'm going to go, okay, all I need to do is I need to drop this down, center, oops, sorry, I have it selected, yes. I just need to drop this down, which is center Y. Y is up and down, X is left and right, right? So I'm going to reset. I'm just going to bring it down by left clicking and holding on center Y. I'm doing that right here, right there. That's where I'm clicking on the center Y with the transform node selected. And I'm just moving it down so it's on the road. Go down, get on the road. So we did the same thing we did in the edit page. I just did it in Fusion. Cool. Now we have a truck. Now we have a truck on a road. Next question. Well, how do we edit? How do we mask out the window? I need to get a mask onto, because he wanted to put himself like inside of this window here. So I have to get rid of this truck window and put him in there. Okay. So that means I need to do a mask. Now we did a quick mask over in the color page. We're going to do a mask over here in the Fusion page, and you actually look right here. Their set of masks are right here. There's a square one, a round one, some different types, polygon, B-spline. They all have slightly different functions in the way they act. The B-spline stuff kind of puts a little curve into it, but you're basically going to do the same thing. You're going to click on the preview window, and you're going to make a dotted outline of what you want to either remove or what you want to show, right? It's just like the same thing. I'm going to make a shape, and I either want the stuff inside the shape to be removed or the stuff outside of the shape to be removed. So I go, no problem, cool. I'm going to select the media in the truck node, because that's where I want the mask to happen. And I'm now going to select the polygon mask, and it adds this polygon mask right on top of the median and connects it through that blue mask spot. Kind of advanced stuff. You just have to understand. Yep, I selected the truck and I added a mask. That's all it was. I clicked it, but the truck went away. The reason it went away is it's decided that it's removing everything instead of showing it. So you need to click invert, and if you click invert, the truck comes back. And now I can start drawing on screen, and I'm literally just going to start clicking around. I'm going to literally click around this window and try to draw a mask that's the shape of that window. So let me zoom in so I can see a little bit better. All right, so all I'm going to do is zoom in to this window so I can see the window a little bit better. My browser died off. It just shut down YouTube. Okay, glad I'm still here, kind of. Perfect. Well, that could be a blessing or a curse. Oh, dang it, he's still here. All right, all I'm doing is I'm clicking around kind of this window here and just kind of making a really bad shape. I'll try to move kind of quickly. It's the same thing we did before with the window, right? We just kind of outline and make a shape of the window. And like before, you can move any of these. I'm not going to do perfect here. I'm just going to kind of rough it out. Now I've got a mask, right? Let me see. Where was my, did I close my shape? I don't know if I closed my shape. Why didn't it? Oh, hold on. Wait a second. Did I not close my shape? 1 second. Invert. Let me make sure I got this. I don't think, one of the things that sometimes the software gets wonky too. But also you have to make sure when you're drawing a mask, you click back on the very first spot you started, or then the mask won't be a complete. Let me see if you can see this. You see how it makes like a white dot when I hovered over that? If you don't close the mask perfectly, it doesn't work. It's like, oh, it didn't work. And a lot of times it's as simple as that. Why isn't my mask working? And I clicked 1/4 of a millimeter to the left of it. I didn't close the loop. So when you build a mask, you want to go all the way around, make sure you click right back on the first dot. And if you notice right when I did that, now you can see through the truck, window is masked out, and you can see the background behind it. So nice and simple. We didn't do anything crazy here. I think this node trees sometimes get really scary looking to begin with, but this, it was just a simple layer. This is the background. This was the truck. We put a transform node in there just so we control where the truck was on screen. And then we added a mask onto the truck so that we could mask out the window. That cool? This is nice and simple, right? That's cool. I hope that's all right, my friends. Nice and simple. So now we've masked that out. That was the first thing he asked. Okay, how do I get myself in the window is the next question. Like, how do I put myself in this truck? He wanted to make sure that he was now sitting in the truck. Oh man, let's use Casey. Casey's going to hate me. And he keeps showing up in the stream. Let's grab Casey. And we'll bring Casey down. There's Casey's node. You can't see Casey because I haven't connected into anything. If you ever want to see a node when you're in the Fusion page, the Fusion preview window has either one screen or two screens. This is, you're looking at right here is, screen 1, screen 2 in the preview windows. And they're controlled in the upper right by this option right here. And if you click it, you can either have one preview window or two preview windows. I'm going to set it for 2 for just a minute. Right now you're looking at my total output right here. This is my media 1 output is, I just pushed 1 there. This media 1 is up here, and I'm going to put Casey, even though he's not connected, I'm going to put him up in number 1. And the simple way to do that is just select the node and hit 1 or 2 on your keyboard. If I want Casey up in the number 1 screen, I hit 1, turns him on or off. If I want him in number 2, I just hit 2 and it puts him up in number 2 on or off. So I'll put Casey in number 1, and you can actually see those neat little dots. It actually shows you, these are the monitor. Are you in the left preview window or the right preview window? You can put it in both. You can actually hit 2 and have them in both, but I'll put him in the left. Hush up, Malwarebytes. And I'll put the media out up in the right. Okay, just so you can see him. Now, what I want to do is I want to connect Casey so we can see him in the output. So I want to connect him to this whole truck thing. I want him layered in to this whole truck section, which is these 3 nodes. You know, we've got the background and we've merged in the truck, but I need to have him exist in with this truck section. So what I'm going to do is I am going to, do I want it before the transform? Yeah, I think so. I am going to take this media and I'm going to take the output and connect it to the output of the truck, and it'll merge him in. All right. Can you see what just happened? This is where it starts to look crazy, because you look at this, you go, what the heck just happened, Daniel? All I did was what we did before when we added the truck over the background. Is I have 2 things here. I want to add Casey over the truck, or in with the truck. So I'm going to take the output of this and attach it to the output of the truck, and it'll add that merge node. It was just like the first time when we added them. Put it there, and it does make the nodes look crazy sometimes. And this is where a lot of times you'll see me doing like, wait a minute, let me move things around. This is getting kind of crazy. I'm going to add them. I like them stacked. All right. And now I've got Casey. I'm going to go to single screen again. I've got everything I need on screen, but it's just wrong. I mean, just everything's wrong now, right? Now I'm like, wait a minute, this isn't right. This is not what I want. I've got a problem because I've got Casey in front of the truck. I need him behind. He's supposed to be back behind the truck. He should be between the truck layer and the background layer. So just his face is up there. Old truck driving Casey. So one of the things you want to think about is, we talked about this earlier too. Remember I said that these little green dots, one is a foreground and one is a background? You can reverse the connection points and go, oh, the problem is I've got Casey connected to the background and I've got the truck connected to the foreground of this merge that's bringing them together. And if I hover, you'll be able to see that. Let me see if I can show you. Boom. I've got, see right there, the Casey is connected to the foreground. If you hover on those little dots around the nodes, it tells you what each one does. He's merged into the foreground. That's a problem. I need him behind the truck. So that would be the background of the truck. So I'm going to unconnect Casey. I'm going to disconnect Casey. Let go, Casey. I'm going to disconnect the truck, and I'm just going to swap. I'm going to put Casey's output into the foreground, and I'm going to put the truck now into the background. Okay. And now you can see, even though it's all over the place, Casey is in fact in front of the background, like the trees and stuff. He's in the background of the truck. The truck is in the foreground, but he's like in a weird position. See how he's like, I can see his eyeball in his cheek. So we have to change his position, right? Now, these are all simple steps. If you think about it this way, what do we know when it comes to changing the location or the size on something on screen? We did this on the edit page, transform, right? We use the transform options. So if we want to transform him, give him the option to move him, shrink him, get him in the window, then we just have to think in terms of, it's fusion, yes, it's nodes, but I need to add to Casey, who's right here, a transform node so I can move him. So I'm going to select him, see how that's surrounded in red, and I'm going to click up on the transform option, and it's going to add a node right here, and it's going to add it in the right spot. So when Casey, transform, and I know it moves and it looks kind of crazy. I'm going to move it back to where it kind of was, kind of like this. Yeah, you can kind of see it. And now that's what it's done. It's added an extra transform node between Casey and where we had merged it in with the truck. And now when I have that transform node selected, I can actually go up to the controls and I can change the size. I'm going to shrink Casey down. I'm using up these controls right here. There's a size slider. There's positions, left and right. X, Y is up and down. X is left and right. So I'm going to change his size a little. Now I can't see him at all. I'm going to move him to the right. I'm going to lift him up. Let's get his face in that screen. Let's make him a little bit smaller. What size should Casey's head be? Oh, he's going to kill me. There we go. Now, I now have, let me deselect this so you don't see the marks on the screen. I now have Casey Ferris picking up a Christmas tree in his truck. They're both a little off the ground, though. You see the tires should be lower over this roadway. Okay, so I'm seeing problems. The truck is a little too high now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is there's a transform node for all of this mess. This is all of the truck stuff. I've got this one transform node right there. That's what's controlling both the truck and Casey and the mask. Let's take this transform and let's bring everything down. Casey and the truck all at one time. They're a little too high off the road. Select that. And I'm just going to move the not left and right. I'm going to move him down. Y. Let's get him onto the road. Casey is now in the truck. We have a Casey in the truck. Okay, but there's another little problem here that I'm not loving, that I have to fix. And I don't know if you can see this, but remember how the truck was kind of rocking? The problem with that is, as I'm looking at this playing through, the truck is rocking and Casey's staying still. So if you, let me see if I can zoom in just enough. Oh, I don't know if I can zoom in that much. Let me zoom in this way. If you notice, let me see if I can do it right here. As I play through this footage, the truck has a little motion. Can you see in the window? I don't know if you can see it really well. Let me zoom in just a little bit, maybe. You can see it a little bit better. The truck is kind of moving and Casey's head is kind of staying still. I need Casey to move with the truck. So if the truck goes up and down, I need Casey's little head moving along with it. Here's something we have not talked about today. This is one of those more advanced features, is tracking. Tracking is something that gets people crazy, like never mind masking something out. But then when you need things to track, to follow footage, it can be such a brain melt, because it's like, how do I track? How do I do any of this? This is so problematic. I'm going to show you a very simple way that I particularly like to do things. Like, there's simple trackers for just going left, right, up, and down. But whenever you have something like this where a truck is moving and it's doing a certain motion, and I want Casey's head to follow the truck, I like using what they call the planar tracker, Planar. And what it does is you can select a region of the truck and go, see how this truck is kind of moving? I'm gonna just capture that motion. You see how it's doing? Like, do that. Can you capture that information? I don't know how to do that. Tell Resolve, see that motion? I want to capture what the truck is doing, and I want little Casey's head to do the same thing. This is where planar tracker can be like super useful. So the little tricky here, I'm going to disconnect some of this stuff to begin with because we have so much going on, but I feel like I'm starting to get overwhelmed here. Let me take the median out. Let me just move things so at least they're out of the way. Okay. This is what I'm going to do. Okay. If you look down in the node area, let me lift this up just a little bit. If you look right here, remember, this is the truck, and I could have renamed that. I should have to make it easier. This was the mask that took the window out of the truck. This was the merge because we had to add in Casey and the ability to move Casey around with the transform. And then they all went through one transform, and then they merged back down over the background, which was the trees and the road. They all went out to the output. Kind of simple. I know these nodes can get so confusing if you're not used to this sort of, when you're used to doing tracks and layers and you have to switch to nodes, it's like your brain gets a little messed up. But that's all we're doing is I've said this before, it's kind of like playing guitar. If I have my guitar and I have my amp and I want to add in like a distortion pedal, I just unplug my guitar from the amp, go into the pedal first and then to the amp, and then I've got guitar, distortion pedal, amp, and it makes my guitar sound like distortion. Kind of the same thing here, all these little nodes. We're just adding things in line to change what the visual is. In guitar playing, it would change the sound. Here, it's giving us the ability to change what we're seeing instead of what we're hearing. So now looking at this, I need the ability to track this truck's motion because that truck is kind of rocking around. It's just kind of got a slight little, when I play through, that truck has just a little bit of a wiggle to it, a little bit of a bouncing on its suspension. So I'm going to select this media into, this is right here. That's the truck. This is the truck right here. And what I'm going to do is, with it selected, I'm going to hit Shift and Spacebar on my keyboard. That opens up my tools menu inside of DaVinci Resolve. And you can see, let me get rid of that. Let me do this. This is your tool menu. See, it just pops up. It says Select Tool. And it's got a little spot where you can type stuff in. So let me find the tool I need. I actually need a planar, Planar tracker. And you will see, not one. You will see that it shows planar tracker right there. And all I need to do is go cool, make sure it's selected so it's like dark. Can you see how it's like surrounded by a darker shadow? That means that's the one that's selected. And I hit add. It is now added a planar tracker right here. And this planar tracker is just a tracker that's going to gather information about whatever I've attached it to. I've attached it to the inline to the truck. So it's going to track the truck. Go, okay, that's what we're tracking? Yeah. So with the planar tracker selected, in the upper right, we're going to change a few things. We want to track. That's cool right now. It says point and perspective. We don't need to do much here. You can leave those as they are, but I'm gonna change that to hybrid point area because I am going to pick like an area of the truck, not just a single point. And then on this part where it says motion type perspective, I don't need perspective. It's just going to be basically, up or down, left or right. It might rotate a little bit. So I'm going to switch over to translation and rotation. Kind of a simple left, right, up and down, rotate. That's all I want you to track. So I'll switch it to that. Now, once I've done that, what I need to do is I need to make sure, if you notice here, my playhead is a little bit into the video. You have to tell the tracker, hey, make sure you know where the playhead is. And the way you do that is just by saying, hey, set that frame, by clicking on set. If I had the thing at the beginning, I could just play through from 0, but I'm going to set that. And when I set it, you can see it says, okay, here's the reference time. I know where we're tracking from. Thank you for telling me. And then we're just going to hit this track forward, and we're going to track forward from that point. And you'll see, whoop, I lost my pattern. Let me see, set. Why didn't you go? Why didn't you love me? I didn't bother to select a region. This is what happens when I've not had enough coffee today. That's what it's not liking right now. I didn't bother to take a second to select a region. I told it I wanted to track, but I didn't say, hey, here's the area I want you to track. So let's try that again. Planar tracker. I've got it all set. I've got it set for track. Oh man, I'm sorry guys. I got it set for hybrid point area. I've got it set for translation rotation. Let me turn this off. Stop. Don't do your thing yet. It's so confused. It's like, Daniel, you missed a step. You see, I make mistakes too. What I didn't do is I didn't tell it what area to select. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go up to the window. I'm just going to start clicking around the cab of the truck. And you see what I'm doing here. I'm just clicking around to tell it what to track. I never told it what to track. I just, it gave me a big warning like, knucklehead, you didn't tell me what to track. So this is what we're doing. We're tracking right here. We're going to track that area of the truck. Okay, now try that again. We'll set the tracking point, and now please track. Let's see if it wants. Okay, now it's tracking. Such an idiot. So you got to add the planar tracker. You have to set what you want as the tracker region. And then you actually have to click in the image up in the preview window to tell it, this is the area I'd like you to pay attention to. And the area I chose, and it's tracking right now, the area I chose was just around the cab, like the handle and the mirror, because that will allow it to sort of, I don't need to do the whole truck, just maybe like the window area of the cab. I love it when I mess myself up. Do you ever have one of those days, right? Too much blood in the caffeine. Yeah, I hear you. That's what's happening with me, Trish. So all I did was I added this planar tracker, right? It's tracking right now. I'm tracking through, and it's just paying attention to the motion of the cab of the truck. And then when it's done, you'll see what happens here is there's all these little keyframe markers, these little white lines that are here. And that's all it did was it just paid attention to, I do this circle. I told the planar tracker, pay attention to like just this circle, like the mirror, his handle, the top of the window. It's not really tracking Casey. It's tracking the truck. We all have our days. And there it is. So now I've got that. Now that has gotten the information, but now I need to take that information and apply it to my track. So if you have your planar tracker still selected, hey, sorry guys, there's a little option here that's called planar transform. It's just like a regular transform that moves stuff, but it takes the information it got from the planar tracker and puts it into a planar transform node that has all that motion information, the tracking information. So you'll just want to click on that. And what's kind of weird here is when you click it, it sticks it like way out in the middle of nowhere. Like, why are you there? I don't need you over there. Aren't you supposed to be connected to something? But once you have it, you can just put it in line where you need it. So in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that planar tracker and I want to apply that information to Casey. So in a perfect world, what I'd actually like is put it somewhere in line over here, right? And I'm going to put it over here. But I want Casey to match the move of the truck. So to do that, let me just move this planar transform. I've got planar transform control on, right? I'm going to take this down. Hopefully this works for me. I put it in there. Let me see if it works, the motion. Yeah, okay. And it will, I've got all that information. Let me see what happens. If I put him there, you see what I just did? I just took this planar, I just took the planar transform that it showed up, and you can connect it into one of these lines. If you look down here, if I wanted to connect it into the spot, like here's Casey and the thing that put him in this where I wanted him on screen, but I want him to follow that. So I want to put this planar transform right in the line of his connection point. So if you actually just hit shift on your keyboard and drop it in, you'll notice that the line turns sort of a blue and yellow, like two colors. Sometimes it's green and yellow. and you can drop it and you'll see now it's connected. Now it's connected in place. It's taken all the information from the planar tracker and I've applied it to dear old Casey over here with his transform. Now, if I did that correctly, but I'm having a moment, what we should see is, let me zoom in a little bit here, as that truck bobbles up and down, and I move the playhead back, Casey should be moving with it. The problem is the mask isn't moving with it. I need to apply, can you see right here? The mask isn't quite moving with it too. So I also need the mask to move. The mask isn't moving. I got Casey moving, I got the truck moving, but can you see, see if you can see it right down here. The mask isn't following the motion of that truck either. And as I play forward, you can almost see, can you see, let me see if I can zoom in as much as I possibly can using this window. Watch this motion. See if you can notice right at the bottom, the mask isn't following. You see that mask is not following quite right under the window? Yeah, you can see it moving. So what we need to do is also apply this planar transform to the mask as well. So the way we do that is we lift up we can do a simple copy paste. I'm going to select that planar transform right here in my timeline. And I'm going to hit Control C. That's the PC version of copy. I think on Mac it's Command C. And then I'm going to click anywhere in the gray area and I'm going to do Control V. And I think it's Command V on a Mac. And that will give me an exact duplicate of that planar transform. All the same information that we got from the planar tracker. And I'm going to stick that up with the mask. I'm going to drop it right in. Let me see if I can get it to fit. There. So I've now attached it. That was the truck. That was the mask. But I need the mask to follow the truck. I just took that planar transform information and stuck it right in line. So that now should, if I did this right, now the mask is also following the motion of the truck. So now I've got Casey, the mask, the truck, all moving together. They're all following that. They're all following the motion of the truck. Oh my gosh, what a moment I'm having here. So there we go. I've got Casey in the truck. Oh, window masked out. He's in the background. He's picking up his Christmas tree. That's what's happening today. But one last thing. I gotta say thank you very much for the super chat. I want to make a list of rankings that change every week where the lower thirds appear in the second, or wow, see, this is another one of those. And I'm using Arabic. Let me get back to you on that one, pal. You're going to take me totally off track. I can't just shift onto that right now. We're in the middle of something, but I'll get back to that. I'll make a note of that super chat. Let's finish this through, right? I want to see Casey actually drive. So we're going to do one more thing. I want to see him drive down the road. We've taken it this far. So I've got this crazy node tree here that probably looks super confusing. I hope you can remember what we did. If I can explain it in a way that hopefully makes sense, let me see if I can do it. Okay, let me look at this and let's see if we can simplify the node tree and make it make sense. Hold on a second. Let me go right here. This is the trees in the background, right? They were going straight to the output. We had that, but we wanted to add some other stuff in along the way. So we took a truck, that is the truck, and we merged that in. But we also wanted to add Casey into the truck, so we merged him in as well. After we did that merge, we figured out we needed to move Casey because he wasn't in the right spot. So we added a transform to shrink him down and put him in the right spot. But he wasn't moving with the truck in the right direction. Like the truck would jump and he didn't jump with it. So we had to make sure that we had a planar tracker to follow that truck. And we tracked that window area. We created a planar transform and we stuck it in there to make sure it was following. Now that truck window had to be masked out. So we added a polygon mask to the truck. And we also needed the mask to move up and down when the truck moved. However the truck moved, we wanted to make sure that the window masking stayed with it. So we duplicated that transform information and put it there as well. That is our entire node tree in a nutshell. I know that's confusing, but now we're done. I want to try one more thing. I want to move Casey. So I actually have a transform node. All of this stuff, this truck, the mask, the blue, this is all here, but I have this nice little transform node right there. I'm going to select that node. Nice and simple. And we are going to do something we haven't done yet today. Keyframing. Keyframing is so important. It's one of the biggest fundamentals to editing video. You need to learn to keyframe because keyframe creates motion, animation. It's basically you're telling the software at this point, I want what I'm seeing on screen to do this. And at a different time later or before in the timeline, I might want it to do something different. So the way we do that is select that transform. You see it? That's the main, all this stuff, truck, windows, everything is all going into this transform and being merged into our whole background. So we'll select the transform, and then up in the, oh, that was a crazy one. Up in the right, center X and center Y. X controls left and right. Y controls up and down, and these little diamond shapes next to them, those are keyframes. You can add keyframes. So, simple matter of taking the playhead. Right now, the playhead's right here. I'm going to grab it. I'm going to drag it back to the beginning. Playhead, go back to the beginning. At the beginning of this scene with the transform node selected, I am going to move Casey to the left by grabbing center X, clicking in that field and holding and pulling to the left. Okay, left. Watch. Everything is moving to the left. The reason everything is moving to the left is that transform node happens in line after the mask, the Casey, the truck. All of that is being filtered through that transform node. So when I grab that center X and drag it left, everything before it goes with it. It's all about, you know, this sort of the information flow. You know, it moves in one direction. So that transform node is affecting Casey, the mask, the truck, and I'm just slowly dragging him off screen. I'm just pulling him. I'm getting him off screen. I want him out of here. See you, Case. Love you, brother. Talk to you soon. So now I have him completely off screen, and my playhead is right at the beginning of this scene. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the upper right here. This is the center X, center Y section. And I am going to click right there and add a keyframe to tell Resolve, at this point, at the beginning of this whole fusion composition, I want Casey off screen with his truck, okay? Now I'm going to let it play. You can either hit play or you can drag the playhead. I'm just gonna let it play forward a little bit, right? And you can actually do this. You can left click and hold and drag. You can click right on the playhead here and you can pull it to the left or the right. Or you can play if you like to let it play and go, I'm gonna decide by letting it play and how long I think this thing should happen. Maybe right about there. So now the playhead is farther into the timeline, okay? The playhead is now here. And if you notice, if I still have the transform selected and I grab center X again, the same way we move the truck to the left, I'm going to grab that again and I'm going to move to the right. I'm going to go, why don't we move Casey as if he's driven completely across screen, and Casey is now out of sight. He's now off to the right. Him and his Christmas tree. He is now gone. Man, I need another coffee. Okay. I moved the playhead to here. I had moved it back to the beginning originally, put him off screen, and I set a keyframe. The minute I do anything different, let me see if I can get this. If you notice, there's another keyframe here automatically. See that red keyframe? It automatically adds it because I set the first keyframe. I said, at this point, I want Casey in the truck off screen. The minute I move the playhead and tell it to do anything different, it's going to add another keyframe because it knows, wait a minute, you told me to do something once and now this is different. So I'm going to make a mental sticky note reminder. At this point, you want Casey all the way to the right. And the great thing about keyframing is it'll fill all the information in for me. It'll do all the stuff in between. So now all I got to do is set that one keyframe, move them to the right. It sets the second keyframe. And when I pull the playhead back, I now get Casey driving with his Christmas tree across screen, off to his home to set up his Christmas tree before Halloween. I'm going to go back to the edit page here. Let me pull this back. I'm going to render this in place. This is a good little trick. I have a lot going on. And a lot of times when I'm running everything in the world, if you want to make your project run smoother, you can choose to render in place, right click on that. I'm going to right click on that, do render in place. And from these options, I am going to quickly ask it to render at the source resolution. I don't want to lose any resolution. And I'm going to hit render. It will now render this. Where would you like it rendered to? Right there is fine. Perfect. I love it. And I should have, if I did this right, we should now have the incredible adventures of Casey Ferris picking up his Christmas tree and driving down the road in his truck. So if you were to ask me, can you cut out the window, put me in a truck, that question that we saw before, that's one of the ways to do it. But it involves, you can see me, even I was getting flustered. I forgot to tell it what to track. There's a lot of little pieces along the way, and especially when you're like I am today, which talking about a lot of stuff, it's easy to sort of, forget and miss a step. 99.9% of the times when someone says, I tried something you showed me and it didn't work, it's because they missed a step. It's as simple as that. They did something slightly different, forgot to tick a box, and boom, it just missed something. Real easy. Eric Waite Whiskey Studio says, but can it do wheel spin? There's a callback joke. It can. I can do a wheel spin in Fusion. Eric, thank you very much. Is Daniel using the studio version here? I am, but everything you just saw in Fusion is available in the free version as well. Nothing I use there is studio version only. So you could have done that whole Casey driving his truck with the free version as well. Perfect. Thanks for the feedback. What am I looking at here? Will the live on your channel, will the live be on your channel so you can watch it later? Yes, I will leave this up for replay. Mistakes and all. You can mock me later too. This is real simple stuff. So again, when we're thinking about what I really hope that we were talking about here is you can see, you can get really complex, but you can do so much with just simple stuff. If you just learn how to use the transform options, the crop options, if you learn to keyframe is real simple. All of the options in your transform window always have these keyframes. If you go up here, whoops, let me go up to the right. We're on the edit page, all these little dots for cropping, for doing transform, all of rotation, those all have keyframes. So anytime you bring anything down into your timeline, a piece of footage like this, and you go, oh, I want this piece of footage. Hold on, let me show you. I have a piece of footage right here. I just brought my timeline. This is that up here. If I go, oh, I want it to be, I want this piece of footage to start off screen. I can just go, I'm right in the edit page, move it off screen, right? I just did that. I just moved position. You can see it's a negative 3919. I grabbed that left click held, pulled it left. I'm going to put a keyframe there now, right? I'm going to go, whoop, I wanted to hold on to that value. That's that keyframe. And then I want to move the playhead forward. This is exactly like we just did in Fusion. And I'm going to grab that position X value, this again, and I'm going to pull to the right. And this time I'll say, I'm going to do just like I did moving Casey. I'm going to move to the right now. I'm going to bring it in screen. I think 0 brings me right to center. Now I've got a motion where this will slowly come on screen. That's keyframing. It's just telling it, start here, end here. Let me put keyframes, boom, and it'll do that motion. And you can do that with rotation. You can do that with, even like when we do the cropped edges, you could start for something that has no cropped edge and then crop it in, and you can keyframe that crop so you can see things like close in or open up. There's all kinds of things you can do with the very simplest of tools in the edit page. Just understand motion, like learn transform options, learn the cropping options, learn some basic keyframing, learn how to do things like layer other things on top of one another. Learning how to mask, it's like we did with the window. We did it with the window of the truck. We did it with a window to put a piece of footage in. Learning how to go to either the color page or the Fusion page and just be able to select something to create a mask, define where you want the mask to happen, and mask things out. It's kind of simple things, masking, keyframing, layering. If you can spend time really thinking about these, I think you'll find that when you start combining these things together, you're going to have like a world of possibilities and go, I didn't realize how much I can do if I just started thinking about using all these different techniques together. And I think that's really what I want you to think about is think about working from the ground up, deconstruct things, look at how many things we recreated today. We just were playing all over the place just by kind of having fun getting in there, tossing it up. And if you make a mistake like I did, just go, wait a minute, step back. What did I miss? I must have missed something. And it's usually something stupid, right? I forgot to select the region I want the planar tracker to track. Or I tried to keyframe. I do this all the time. This is a big one for me. Like I'll do something like, I'll bring a piece of footage in, right? And I'll go, okay, this is what I want to do. I want this piece of footage right here. Oh, let me see. I'm going to do the same one. Hold on. Get this out of here. I want to bring in my piece of footage. Let me reset it. And I want this piece of footage to start off screen. So I'll move it there, I'll move it over. And okay, now it's over there. Now I'll move my playhead forward and then I'll move it back in the middle, right on screen again. And then I'll hit play and I'll go, where was my keyframing? Oh, I forgot at the beginning when I moved it back off screen, I forgot to go up in the upper right and set that first keyframe. If you don't set the first keyframe, then it doesn't know, hey, at this point, stay off screen, then move your playhead forward and go, okay, now I want it to come back in screen. You have to have the first keyframe. I do this all the time. I'll just forget to set one keyframe. I've been doing this forever, but I'll still make those mistakes. And I think it's one of those things you just want to realize, like, don't be afraid to question yourself and go, whoop, let me retrace my steps. I missed something. I will find it again. All right, listen, all of you have been hanging out for a very long time. We went really long here. I thank you for hanging out with me today. I hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, throw them in the comments section down below. Thank you for all the super chats. Thank you for all the great questions. We'll do this again soon. I hope this is useful, and I will talk to you guys very soon. All right? You guys have a great day. Peace.